Welcome to another episode of Bringing Down the Grindhouse, and tonight we're going to get cooked, flayed, eaten, beaten by cannibals. How's it going, John?
It's going well. How are you doing?
Pretty good.
And I'm actually happy to announce that Persephone is back with us.
Hi, everybody.
They were missing for just a few episodes, but you're back now. I think it's because you wanted to talk about cannibalism. Is really what it was.
Mm-hmm. So I've seen the feet in her freezer.
You can't tell people about who I kill, okay, and eat.
Well, I didn't say who. I just said I saw the feet in the freezer.
Right.
No feet. I don't like feet.
So you do like some parts, just not the feet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Note it. Before we get into it, I do want to announce that the podcast is now available on iTunes, on Spotify, on Google Play Music, as well as being on YouTube, SoundCloud, and am I missing anything? It's on social media sites.
Yeah, social media, pretty much the big ones.
Woohoo!
Right. So
Woo!
Easily accessible. You can go and Google or go and search Bringing Down the Grindhouse and be able to find 5 episodes, and then this will be the 6th that we're bringing on. We're going to talk about 2 films today, Cannibal, Holocaust, and The Green Inferno. So what were you guys thinking? Which one do you want to start with?
Let's start with
The older one?
Let's do the
yeah,
Green
let's
Inferno.
do. I was thinking because I believe one is sort of an offshoot of the others. Let's talk about the one that the second is an offshoot of.
So we'll start then
Cannibal Holocaust.
with Cannibal Holocaust, because it's the first one made. And so prior to watching it, or I should ask you guys, when was the first time you watched it?
The first time I ever watched Cannibal Holocaust was like when I first came out here to college.
Which
like 2013? 2000, yeah.
Okay, so just a few years ago then. So that was the first. So what
6
did you
years ago.
feel watching that for the first time? No, did anyone prep you for that?
No, I just read a bunch on it and then I watched it.
Dang, you researched it before you went and watched it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. What about you, Mitch?
I heard about this movie from another friend of mine who liked to watch macabre, fucked up things.
Okay.
And so he'd said, like, oh, you never seen Cannibal Holocaust? So the movie's crazy. And I was just like, oh, I just never got around to it. And so maybe 2 months ago, Percy, I'm pretty sure, is the one that told me about it and reminded me that it exists. And so I tracked it down and watched it.
Okay. I'm trying to think. The first time I watched it was probably around the same time you watched it, Percy. I forget who. Oh, you know what? It was off of a conversation that me and Mitch had, because this was around the time where you showed me a Serbian film. And then
Ooh.
we ended up chatting about that one, and then you want to watch another fucked up movie.
I will not talk about that movie on here with you. No,
Me either.
I'm not going to talk about that movie. If you would like to go see this movie, listeners, go see it, and then you'll know why we don't want to talk about it.
Exactly. Yeah. But that'll be the only mention of it. And then Cannibal Holocaust was mentioned as a part of one of those movies that people really thought was like a snuff film. Like there's some real violence that was going on in those movies.
So much so that the director of the movie was brought into court over it to prove that he did not actually murder the actors in the movie.
So when that film was like created, the actors, everybody that was in it actually had to sign like a thing that stated that they would not be in any type of like public eye or any type of broadcasting or anything for it for I think 6 months afterwards. So like it looked like everybody was just dead.
So to the public, they were gone for the entire time that they were shooting?
No, like after the film came out.
Oh, even after?
Yeah, like they had to sign like paperwork that said they would not appear in anything else for like
God.
6 months after the film, like to bring more of the like ambiance to the film of like people looking like they fucking died.
Well, it looks like it fucking worked.
That's
Because he
some
got
really
brought in.
cool like facts right there. I like that a lot. That's really, really interesting.
What did they end up charging him with? Was it just straight murder, or was it
Yeah,
something else?
yeah. Probably also abuse of animals.
Yeah.
I would imagine was also in there for sure. Definitely because of the 2 animals that are killed.
It's more than 2.
Oh, it's more. Oh, excuse me. Which one am I missing?
It's like 6 or something.
There's a what? The what?
I didn't know it was that many.
Whoa! They killed the rat. The rat gets gutted.
There's a rat. There is a like some little small like ocelot looking thing or something. There's a tarantula.
Oh,
there's
yeah,
a
the
turtle.
monkey.
Yeah,
They kill a
there's
little monkey.
Actually,
and
like
the turtle.
more.
I know, man, it's brutal. I'm sorry, animal. I know. I love monkeys too. Nobody wants to see a monkey getting destroyed.
Yeah, it's 6. So it's a coati, a turtle, a tarantula, a boa constrictor, a squirrel monkey, and a pig.
Damn. Yeah. So they couldn't include the little bit at the end where they're like, no animals were harmed in the making of this movie.
This was before people did that
Right.
for fear of PETA.
Oh, well, I mean, let's see. This movie came out what year?
In like the 80s, I think.
1980.
Yeah.
So, 1980. I feel like this was slightly after some of the other films we've mentioned before. We're like starting. Unironically, I think we're like slowly moving through the decades without even realizing it.
This one set an interesting precedent for movies later on.
Yeah.
It was like one of like the earlier films that had might have been one of the first ones that actually had like found footage, like where the plot line follows. Found footage is, discovered, and we see the events that took place.
I mean,
what these people experienced.
Italian cannibal films is like its own genre, basically. Like there is more. Like the man who plays the main character, Robert Kerman, is in like 2 other Italian cannibal films, even though he's an American actor.
That's
Yeah,
interesting.
it's like its whole own genre of
I
films.
know Italian like horror films is its own thing. So I guess this must be like a bit of it where they're going through that, but also not nearly as popularized in the United States for other countries' cinema. You always got to go through like film classes or do your own research usually to find them, and they're almost always worth it. The United States is fairly new when it comes to making certain types of films or narratives.
I would say that it set a precedent for stuff like the Blair Witch Project to come up, where you're like watching footage of like the events taking place and stuff like that. So it set a precedent for that. Yes, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen the other Italian horror movies, so I wouldn't be able to tell if they're the same as if they're the exact same precedent as what Cannibal Holocaust did. Can you comment on that, Percy?
The next movie that we talk about like is a literal homage to Cannibal
yeah,
Holocaust.
absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Oh, the Green
Like,
Inferno.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
that's literally it's a direct homage to it.
You know what? I was rewatching because I rewatched both of them within the last few days. It was actually 2 films I could not watch back to back. And I think in some way I might have lost my stomach for watching some violent movies.
What a fucking baby.
No, I couldn't do it either, man.
What?
I had to do those films separate. I had to like have like a day or so of not watching it because Green Inferno has a super gnarly scene in the very beginning that just made me really upset. Like the whole time I'm just like, oh god, oh no. And it's a good movie for that it made me feel that way, and you're just like absolute repulsion and like disgust and all of these other feelings because it happens to like the nicest character. The person who deserves it the least is the one that it happens to. And it's like the most graphic like part in Green Inferno anyway. In Cannibal Holocaust, you really are just glad they all die, kind of.
In a way, yeah. I think one of the main criticisms I've seen for either film is their treatment of the native peoples that are shown in the movies, as far as like just showing them to be like savage people. And so that's one of the main things I saw in articles that I was looking through in analysis for the film. I do agree with it that it was kind of like they were using the idea of quote unquote savage people to like push forward this narrative that the area they were going to was dangerous. And it also was kind of relevant to like newer things. Who was the one guy that just got killed on an island because he was trying to like
John Chow, whatever his name was, the
Yeah.
the guy that was like, I'm gonna go on this mission and evangelize these people. Yeah.
which in his case I think he was dumb and shouldn't have done that, so like totally deserved
Oh no,
whatever
he
happened to
deserved
him.
it. He
Yeah.
lied to everybody that he was supposed to be going to. He was like trying to like I think the first one he like lied to the people on the boat about where he was going.
Yeah.
He lied to everybody else that he knew. Like they kept telling him like we're not going to take you there. And then he like bribed them if I'm right, and like
Yeah.
gave them money.
He totally bribed
And then
someone.
like when he gets to the thing, he starts like singing hymns, and he's like, oh, look at me, I'm like singing my fucking hymns. And then he lays down like what coconut, fish, and like a stapler or something, or some fucking weird item on the ground,
you imagine?
like giving it to them. Then they start throwing spears at him, and then he's like, the natives don't want me here, but God has brought me here, so I'm gonna have to go back. And they fucking kill his ass. They speared that motherfucker. Of course, that's what he deserves. Like, like these
if
people.
you're a dumbass, you get killed.
Well, these people, especially like native folks that have never had like any type of contact with people like us, you could decimate them because they don't have the same immunities and things that we do. There's no
Right.
vaccines there. You know what I mean? Like they don't have that. So you step up there and you have a fucking cold or something, you're gonna kill off this fucking tribe that's been there. Like, of course, he got exactly what the fuck he deserved.
Well, so as far as I know, with tribes and peoples that are still like this and wanting to not be contacted, like it's well known that they don't want to be contacted. Isn't there kind of protections in place as far as like laws? Like some of the other countries around, like kind of they enforce that, or they're like, no, they want to be left alone. don't try to attempt to go into these places. And so it's very much a thing that people acknowledge, but is still getting sort of ignored.
It's probably a legitimate fear for some of the people who are not part of those societies that live outside of them. It's probably a legit fear for them.
Well, I'm wondering then, does sort of the unknown peoples and like what's going on there kind of fuel these narratives where they're wanting to like do things like Cannibal Holocaust, where they're like, oh, they're all cannibals, this is what they do on their time, so why they don't want to be contacted. So is it sort of fueling movies like this where they're like wanting to create this sort of, I guess, fake narrative? I know cannibalism does happen in some parts of the world, but I don't think nearly on what we've seen on the movies.
Yeah, I mean, but the movies are, even then, they're very isolated tribes. So if there were cannibalistic tribes, chances are you're probably not running into them because they're probably very tiny.
Right.
You know, I mean, they're probably not huge communities. I wouldn't gather, but then again, I'm not an expert, so I can't tell you. But I'd be very curious to know why there is like an entire like Italian cannibal genre and like where that stems from and whatnot. But I guess a good thing to start off with, John, would be, where does Cannibal Holocaust start?
Well, so the beginning of it, or at least it's described as, is in 1979, an American film crew disappears in an area of the Amazon rainforest known as the Green Inferno. While filming a documentary about indigenous cannibal tribes, the team consists of Alan Yates, the director, Faye Daniels, his girlfriend and script girl, and 2 cameramen, Jack Anders and Mark Tomaso. Harold Monroe, an anthropologist at New York University, agrees to lead a rescue team in hopes of finding the missing filmmakers. And so that's sort of like what sets off what's going on there. So obviously the movie is, it can be uncomfortable for you to watch because of the violent scenes that are in it. But I think, honestly, what's so funny?
Babies.
But it's
I'm
intended
joking.
to do
No,
that.
yes, there's definitely, trigger warning is heavy for that film. If you don't like things like that, I'm just poking fun at my co-hosts.
I mean, it's not so much that, I mean, it's just really grotesque, and it's really like realistic and visceral for that movie. That movie, I didn't quite know if it was fake or not. Like, while watching it, I walked in and I said, okay, it's already been proven that all this is fake. But when I watched it, I was like, these special effects are really good.
So if
they're really good at it.
Some like good information on the special effects. So the girl that's actually hung from the spike, if you're familiar with that scene, she's actually sitting on a bicycle seat.
Right.
And she's actually holding half of a wooden spike out of her mouth. So that is not, so like it's a special effect, but she literally had to put like an actual like piece of like spiked wood in her mouth and hold it for that scene. And she's sitting on a bike seat, so that's why it looks like she's being impaled through it. It's a pretty cool special effect. They had to explain that special effect actually because they thought she was dead.
Right. Was
That's super, super good.
Yeah. How did he end up explaining that? Was that a part of like
they
when they
brought her in?
Yeah, I was gonna say, did they bring her in for like the court case that was going against him? And they're like, please explain like what this is.
And they explained that whole thing. That's why she had to like show that she held the spike in her mouth.
Well, I know that a lot of the sort of like special effects were kind of unveiled that way, where he had to explain it like during the court case that was going on with him. But I know for sure the killing of all of the animals was definitely part of the censorship for most countries, and I think a lot of countries still maintain the ban on the movie itself. Do you think it's so bad that it should have been banned the way it did?
It depends on how you feel about animals getting killed on screen. I mean, when they hack that turtle's head apart, its feet are all wiggling around like super. You don't just make that like that. And then they like rip the shell open and then like eat like all the innards and everything all gets cooked up, and it's nar. Like it was pretty. And if you really like turtles, then it's woo. But I wonder if I don't know how legit the tour guide was, or if they actually ate the turtle and stuff like that. If it was they were really trying to be that realistic about it. It's incredibly convincing though. A lot of the scenes are very convincing. I mean, a few of the deaths that happen inside the village. The way the natives are like just playing with the organs like Play-Doh, they're playing with it like kindergarten children finger painting. Like just playing with intestines and things like that over rocks, and it's oh god, it sets. I don't know. It's shocking, really, really shocking and gnarly.
You know what that reminds me of? So there's a class where we're talking about documentaries. So like one of the first documentaries made a long time ago was Nanook of the North. And during one of those scenes, they got a seal, I think it was. They like hunted a seal, brought it out, and they like cut it open inside of like a children's classroom to like show the insides and everything. So, but the weirdest part about it that he ended up filming, the seal that they cut open like in the middle of a children's classroom, and for the most part they end up eating most of the animal like raw. Like usually that's like the thing that they were doing in this area because it makes sense for like the type of animal. But it's weird to watch because the kids are like playing with the blood, like almost like what you had described, where they're like doing little symbols like on the ground and things like that. But we didn't know how to respond to it. And it was interesting to see all of the people's reactions in the classroom to like, well, is this normal? Like, should he have included something like this? Or was he trying to show the people who live there as like a certain type of way? It's almost like when they include translations of what people are saying and they're not always right. You know, they end up kind of like faking translations. So I wonder if the native peoples that they used for this movie kind of knew what was going on, or if they just like gave them general direction.
In a lot of those scenes, actually, those native folks are acting how they would normally act. So in the scene where the monkey is killed, they killed 2 monkeys for that scene, actually. They had to redo it. And the natives actually ate the brains of the monkey.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, because it's a delicacy in their culture.
Oh, okay.
So, like, I think there's this, like, weird translation of what we might think is, like, weird or, like, childlike, you know, in a sense, where it's like, oh, well, they're playing with these things where in their culture, that's normal.
Right. And so, go ahead.
When I say childlike, I don't mean that in like a.
I got you.
Like, yeah, exactly. I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. I just meant like it was very like almost like childish delight with like this like, oh yes, blood and flesh and yes, the body cavity and oh, I love feeling all the organs in my fingers and this is gonna go in my mouth soon. And
so in what ways then was the Green Inferno sort of paying homage to this? So they pretty much did the same narrative, right?
The fuck do you mean? The damn, in the Cannibal Holocaust, the fucking place in the Amazon is called the Green Inferno.
There is that. They do an homage to a bunch of things. There's like the scene with the tarantula walking in Green Inferno. There's a scene with the tarantula walking while the guy's taking a piss, and he freaks out because he's like, the tarantula almost bit my dick. And you know what about that kid? It's the same kid from it's the same actor from Robin Williams movie, World's Greatest Dad. Have you guys ever seen that?
I've not. What is that?
It's a Robin Williams. It's a great Robin Williams movie. I highly recommend watching it. But the guy that almost gets his bitten off by a spider in that movie, is the shitty younger son of Robin Williams, and that kid like dies from autoerotic asphyxiation in the movie. Spoiler alert. And he's the biggest piece of shit. Like he tells his dad to go fuck himself. He calls everyone terrible names and is rude to everyone. You're just like, this kid sucks. And like the whole premise is the kid dies, and then the dad sort of profits off of his like accidental death by saying it was in his suicide, and he left this really deep note. And then the dad starts publishing his own work in there and saying that it's his son's in order to profit off of it. It gets like, it's fucked.
Why have I never heard of this movie? What is it called again?
It's called World's Greatest Dad.
I'm gonna add that to a list of weird movies I need to check out.
Oh, it's so good.
Right.
Yeah.
So I put all of my movies in one place, and it's funny because since we're focusing on all of like the horror theme stuff, it's like easily overtaking all of the other movies that I have on there. So I'm scrolling through it and I'm realizing, I'm like, oh wow, this is really taking up a huge amount of the movies I've been watching, almost to the point where I feel like I need to watch something a little more upbeat every now and again. And I love this because Percy is totally rolling their eyes at me.
Babies.
Well, okay. Do you watch like terrible things all the time?
Yes.
What have you watched lately? Like, what's besides these two? I want to know.
I don't want like potential suitors to listen to this and realize how fucked up I am as a person.
Well, that's you already said. Like, what if this attracts
That's
certain dudes? Like, you might
I
get
have
a
someone
certain
in mind already. It's fine. But I really like really macabre and weird shit. So like Cannibal Holocaust is something that I've watched really recently. fuck, this is gonna make me sound like terrible. Like you ever like
Not
no
at all.
yes.
Come on.
But like you know, like you go on Reddit and you get those like really fucked up subreddits sometimes, like morbid reality and other shit. You know, I like look through those. It gives me. So the reason I like really gory and like really intense, like visceral, like death things is because it reminds me that I'm alive in some kind of shitty cliche way. But it's like I don't process death like normal people. So it's like because of the relationship I have with it, like I don't. So I see things like that and I'm like, oh shit, like it's a fucking thing. Like this exists, like this happens. So I just watch, you know, weird shit. I also like to watch a lot of like cursed videos that you find on like
I'm not like
curse videos and stuff. Like
I'm not shaming you. This is what's happening. Here.
Everybody's shaming me. Like, I'm used to it.
Well, okay. Well, you know what? That's relatable in a different kind of way. So like I enjoy a lot of films that are mainly based on like so like Lord of the Rings is definitely up there on one of the things I enjoyed the most because it adheres so strongly to that hero's journey narrative where you get to see like it's like the one thing that you'll hear about in every film analysis class or anything that has to do with literature where like everything has the hero's journey in it. It doesn't, like not everything has it, but one of the main ones, the ones that people enjoy the most are those because you get to see this hero play out a story and then in some way they're usually relatable. They're like you want to be that sort of hero person. So you find different connections to things. I can understand the appeal of wanting to watch certain things because you have a different connection with either people passing, with death, or with how that might play out on screen, especially in regards to like what kind of death it is, like what's going on there. So it's not weird. I don't think it's weird, but it's why I asked you.
It's super weird. I mean, I don't care. Like, I don't sit here and like actively seek this out. Like, it's not something where I'm like, I gotta get my morning quota of fucking dead people. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's more of just like if I come across it, I'm not the person that will shy away from it. I'll be like, oh, like let me actually read about this because I just want to know what's going on. I think it's interesting. I think death is super interesting.
As far as like the way different peoples or different cultures handle it, or
yeah, I did a project on that.
Oh, that's right, you did, huh? Yeah. What was that for? What class was that for?
So it was really funny because I was doing this for an ethnic studies course because like I don't know, I don't feel like I'm your normal ethnic studies major. Like I'm not like, oh, I'm trying to help communities. I'm like, let's talk about the ways that different cultures handle death. And in the Philippines, there's actually a certain like culture in the Philippines that like you bury your dead underneath like the floor in your house.
Oh, so they stay like close by.
Yeah, and there's like a reason behind it and everything, and I just think it's really interesting.
I don't know anything about that.
I love death rituals.
Would you be willing to explain a little bit about that?
I don't remember enough about it to give you like the best advice. I don't
Right.
want to like put wrong information out there, but like they do bury them. I think it's like under the kitchen floor because my project was called From Underneath the Kitchen Floor.
Oh wow.
Yeah, like, and it was just like a homage to that as like someone who's Filipino.
Right.
You know, but yeah, they like bury them there. There's certain ones where I think it might even be by the front door or something because like walking over them is a sign of like a certain, like I think it's good luck if I'm right. And like you also like stave off bad things happening and death celebrations. Like I think it's really interesting. I think we need a healthier view around death.
That's fair. So in some way, the family members who have died provide protection for the rest of their family.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting, and I like that connection. As far as like still maintaining that connection with your family, because being Mexican, we have the Day of the Dead where we get to like have that connection with our family members every year, like as long as you remember them, basically.
I think we talked about this in another podcast, right? Or I may have been the one that mentioned it, but I don't remember which culture it is. But there's another one where they keep the mummified remains of their ancestors, and like every season or every at a particular time of the year, they bring the mummified remains out, and everyone in the community like touches it and passes it along around, and it's like, say hello to grandma and grandpa. This is we're hanging out with them now today. It's a day to celebrate our ancestors, sort of deal, which is nice. It's quaint there.
That makes me think about how the pharaohs used to just kill their servants and like bury them with the pharaoh. Yeah. Because like, oh, I'm going to need these people in the afterlife.
Duh.
And and of course they would. God, why would they live lives of their own?
Right. Like there's one, like everyone, all the Egyptians were like, well, dude, he's going to need his servants when he goes there. Like, don't you know? Like,
right.
If I was pharaoh, I would totally need like all my servants there and like all my gold.
Everything, literally everything. I think one of the best stories I heard out of one of these like random tomb openings was a pair of British dudes who found like crystallized honey in some random jar and melted it down and then put it in their tea. Like, however, like this ancient artifact that they had found, they're like, yeah, let's make some tea out of it. And they just did not give a fuck about what they had pulled out of the ground or out of the tomb. So kind of unrelated, but it was still funny to me and made me think about that. Also, it made me think about how there was that whole time period, I think it was like the Victorian era, where they put like cages over certain graves because they were afraid of like zombies basically coming out of the ground. There's like little bells too.
I've never heard that. It's super cool.
You never seen that?
They expect the bells to go off when the dead rise.
The reason why is because for a good amount of time they were accidentally pronouncing people dead when they weren't dead. So there was a few people who got buried like that, and they were like, they found or they heard noises or things like that. And so what they started doing was putting like a rope that's connected down into the coffin. And so if you're still alive, you'd ring the bell and somebody would be passing by and know like, oh shit, we just buried someone alive. But also the other side of that was people's fear of zombies and or vampires coming out of the ground. So they put cages over the graves. So you can like Google that sort of Victorian era like scare, what they were doing, and they were doing stuff like that, which is ridiculous. They were completely afraid. But this was also when like folklore was definitely like on their list of beliefs as far as what they were thinking about, because there's no one else to like confirm or not confirm whether or not these tales were real, and so they were just going off like, yeah, it's probably real.
Superstitions were very, very rampant at different times,
right?
Like at different times, so because there was no like scientists like. And even then, scientists were feared sometimes because they brought too much knowledge for people. You know, it was too much. I can't handle the facts he's dropping right now. I want to believe in the magical space rhinoceros.
That sounds like something H.P. Lovecraft would make.
Space magical rhinoceros. Space, only if it had tentacles.
Right.
The tentacled rhinoceros
head.
There
you go. Well, now you know what a tentacled space rhinoceros would sound like. We'll go ahead and save that clip and use it whenever we need to reference this one more time.
My next D&D monster and make for my players is going to be a tentacled space rhinoceros.
What is like the weirdest monster you can think of from D&D?
The weirdest D&D monster I can think of? Dungeons and Dragons monster? Oh my god, dude! Like, I think that the Mind Flayers, not Mind Flayer, the Beholder is pretty cool. That's a classic one. So the Beholder is like a usually created by wizards,
all right,
and whatnot, and like an offshoot. It's sort of like, I want to describe them as like magical cancer. So like magic that's just been like tortured and deformed creates this being with a single eye, and it has multiple tentacles, and it's incredibly xenophobic, and it believes that it is the epitome of all things that are great and intelligent, and no one can ever outsmart it. And whatnot, and it kind of like, it dreams. Here's the crazy thing: it dreams, and when beholders dream, depending on how they're feeling, they create things in their dreams.
Oh, geez.
So while they sleep, they like whatever it is. It usually takes on like a beholderish form. Maybe it's like a sub-beholder or something else, like an object that's very beholdery. And yeah, they're very, very interesting creatures. They're pretty fucking strange, to be honest.
So like, if you want a better way to think of that, think of like, you know how Mike Wazowski always gets like cut out of ads and shit? Yeah. Imagine he got like really pissed and decided to go talk to a wizard, and it like fucked up his form, and now every time he fucking sleeps, like shit comes out of it. Like, Mike Wazowski is just like a beholder, and it's like nice form. I'm kidding, but like, you know, like the one eye fucking thing. Like, if you just like fucked up Mike Wazowski's face enough, you'd have a beholder.
You have to put a bunch of eye stalks on his head and take off his arms and legs, and then all the eye stalks fire beams out of them that are meant to disintegrate you or kill you or They also have their front eye also has an anti-magic field, which just, if you're standing in it, everything that's magical doesn't even function anymore. So if you have the really cool flaming sword, that becomes a normal sword now inside of its gaze. It's just, it's a crazy, crazy monster.
Have you ever used this against like
players? I have. Okay, so if I'm gonna nerd out now.
Yeah.
So in my personal campaign, I have a beholder. I have one beholder that the party has not fought yet.
Okay.
They haven't gone to fight him, even though he's causing a lot of problems right now. They worked alongside him because he was a decent ally-ish, and they weren't really powerful enough to go take him on if they wanted to. My beholder has an obsession with singing and being a musician. That's his entire, like, his whole deal is like he just is a failed artist, and
Right.
and so he just like roams around his little thing trying to create the most masterpiece, like the greatest masterpiece ever, and perform it.
Oh my god.
And he will be the best,
Right.
and everyone else around him is within any amount of miles is a threat. So they will be destroyed, for he must make the best music ever.
Oh, this is great. This is such a great tangent that we went on into Dungeons and Dragons.
I mean, yeah, definitely. I love D&D.
We were gonna get here at some point because we've all played.
Yep, all of us are. Yep.
Actually, now it makes me think. Percy, what was the last character you played in Dungeons and Dragons?
So I played a lot of Pathfinder, actually.
Oh, excuse me.
No,
Oh, shit.
No, my last game was actually Pathfinder.
Right.
But I played
It's like, no, this Dungeons and Dragons bullshit. We're
No,
playing
I like-
Pathfinder version number 5.
So I like Dungeons and Dragons. Just the person I was seeing at the time was really into Pathfinder and didn't
Right.
do a lot of D&D, so we just played Pathfinder. But I actually played a character. Her name was Pockets. She was
Pockets?
Yeah. Her real name was actually Penelope, but
Okay.
she went by Pockets. And Pockets was a half elf bard alchemist, multi-class. So basically her first level,
Yeah,
she was
no, I
a
get you.
bard. Then we added on levels of alchemist. She came from a family where her father was an alchemist and her mother was a bard. And both her parents wanted her, go there like one way or something. And she decided no, she was going to do both. So her motto was, I sing songs and I throw bombs. So bombs and songs was like, she had a jacket basically on the back that said bombs and songs.
Oh
Like
my
the
God.
DM ended up allowing me to like make one. And I was like, yes, like this is really awesome. But yeah, so she was kind of on the shorter spectrum of like elves.
Okay.
But she was like super spunky. She had like short red hair. She always had pigtails and like she had an Australian accent. Because like I
is
can't
such a character.
fucking do English one, so it just devolved to this shitty Australian accent. And yeah,
Wait, so were you doing an Australian accent while you're playing?
no, I'm not gonna do it for you right now.
No,
Oh.
no, because anytime you ask somebody to do an accent, they pause and then it's awkward.
No, I can't. It devolved.
I'm just
to
trying to
shitty-
imagine this character that's speaking in an Australian accent in the middle of like a fantasy world.
Yeah, it was great. Like it was all. She was great. She was just she was chaotic good, or sorry, she was chaotic neutral.
Okay.
Because all of my characters are chaotic neutral, just because I don't give a fuck.
I feel like I do the same thing sometimes.
I mean, I'm chaotic neutral. but, like,
Really? Is that where you put yourself?
Oh,
in
my
your
alignment
chart?
is like hardcore, like chaotic neutral, like true neutral. Like I feel like that's
Interesting.
exactly where I'm at. Like
Where are you
I just
at,
don't
Mitch?
care.
I'm pretty sure I'm on the chaotic good route, man.
Okay.
There's like times when I will probably go against the law in order to do what I believe is right.
Right.
And then there's that sort of idea.
Well, actually, what I ended up thinking about was, so I immediately thought of Eli Roth, and I'm like, to me, every time I've seen him, he seems like a creepy dude.
He's really attractive.
He's oddly attractive. I'll
Oh,
admit
no,
that.
it's not oddly. He is
Well,
attractive.
to me personally,
I was like,
you're like, no,
he
no.
is attractive.
Well, okay. So what else has he been in, right? Like he's been in a few movies, like even before we saw him do the directing thing.
He was the
right?
bear Jew in in
Inglourious
Inglourious Bastards.
Right. Yeah. So you got to see him do. You know what? We mentioned. We mentioned Inglourious Bastards when we were talking about Feast
Oh.
because of when
This guy. Okay. See, I didn't know who Eli Roth was.
Mitch
so I was
just
looking
looked
up.
up.
I was just looking up, and I was like, "Oh, that guy." Okay, I
Yeah,
understood.
he did Cabin Fever and Hostel.
yes,
Oh.
Right.
Oh, he made the movies.
yeah,
Oh.
or directed them and
Directed
like
them,
helped
wrote-
write some of them.
maybe.
Yeah. He has an interesting looking face, is why I mentioned him. But more importantly, I want to know what kind of alignment would he land in for?
Chaotic evil, chaotic neutral, or true neutral. Like, no, he cannot be on any of the good,
No
or
good.
like
None
no,
of the goods.
No, if he's good, he would have to. I feel like Eli Roth is hardcore chaotic good. If he has to be on a good alignment, but I think he's like in the chaotic. Like, no, fuck. Have you seen Hostel?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like, fucking that girl at the end, like the Japanese girl that gets like super fucking depressed about how she got like fucked up through the thing, so she jumps in front of a fucking train. Chaotic. Like Eli Roth is 100% chaotic.
What do you think, Mitch?
Based upon the films you guys are naming, like Hostel. I've seen Hostel before. What was the other one? There was another one of his that I'd seen. Oh no, it was him as the bear Jew.
Yeah.
That's pretty fucking chaotic good. Also,
He was
kinda,
also a
so-
rando in Death Proof. Yeah.
He's
Or-
a rando in Death Proof.
Yeah.
Just die or something.
No, he's just there for a little bit of the story and then you never see him again. But I think it's just because Tarantino likes to use him and stuff. So he was like, yeah, I'll bring you on for death proof. And he's like one of the dudes trying to get with one of the girls in the movie. But like it obviously doesn't work out for him.
Yeah, of course not. Why would it?
Well, yeah, they go on their own adventure, so it's okay. I just keep thinking of his face in Inglourious Bastards when he's like about to beat the shit out of the Nazi with the baseball bat, and he gets this whole intro. They like spend like 4 or 5 minutes on who the Bear Jew is and how Hitler himself knows about him and is like, do you really think he's a golem? Like all of the Nazis are talking about this golem that's been killing all of our men. And then he comes out and they're all excited and he just fucking beats the shit out of this Nazi who doesn't want to like give up information on where the rest of the Nazis are. And they're all stoked about it. They're like, this is about as close as we get to going to the movies and watching Nazis get beat up with a baseball bat. That's immediately what I thought of because he looks like he's about to cry when he like brings the bat to his head and he's just staring at him and he looks like he has tears in his eyes. It's the funniest thing I've seen in a long time.
You know what else was pretty funny that I thought was pretty funny, but also kind of that's still on. Nazis dying, I wouldn't necessarily call morbid, but someone getting beat over the head with a bat is I would consider somewhat morbid. But something else I would like to mention is one of the dumbest deaths in the Green Inferno.
Okay.
Also, I'd like to just take a tally of the deaths if you guys can remember them. At all.
There's a lot.
So most of all right, a good group of the college students that go there. The interesting thing about the Green Inferno that I liked a lot, bringing us off this tangent,
right? Thank you.
Bit, is what I liked about it was that it was sort of a satire on social justice. That was one of the big things because what happens is the guy that they all rally behind that gets them to go over to the Amazon, the Green Inferno, and go investigate it is working with another man who pays for, I believe it's is it Brazil, the Amazon's? I'm so bad with geography. Like, I always forget. So he's a guy from that area.
South America.
And you learn later on in the movie, spoilers, learn later on in the movie that he was working for a rival logging company.
Yes.
And so the only reason why the activists were sent over there was to distract the current logging company and get them to leave so that his logging company could come in and take care of the business. So they were all set up there for no reason. When their plane crashes, a whole bunch of them die in that particular instance. They're thrown out of the plane all over the place. One girl is struggling with her seat inside of the tree and just like falls out off camera, like almost hilariously kind of like it's just like, and you're just like, well, there goes that one. One of the guys, he's just this big, tall, blonde dude, and he just is bending over to pick up something, and the still spinning propeller of the plane just nicks him in the skull, and he dies. I busted up laughing. I laughed so hard, and that was the only death that made me laugh was that one because that dude just like, how do you? Oops, just why?
Oh my god!
It's like he showed up. It's like the director had an issue with him, maybe off camera. Was like, that's it, man. You're fucking out of this movie. I'm so sick of you. You just die this way. We're writing it right now.
Damn. So it seemed kind of personal then.
Yeah, almost, just a little bit.
A little bit. You know what that reminds me of too? Do you remember? I think it's the third Jurassic Park movie. There's a plane crash and a bunch of people die in that plane crash for some reason. And then someone falls out of their seat the same way you just described. And it's way too funny. They need to stop doing scenes like that.
Yeah, scenes with like the like climactic seat in the tree and falling out and dying thing is not interesting.
Well, I think they think it's like suspenseful.
Yeah.
And like, you're like, oh no, what's going to happen to this person? But it ends up being funny because they just fall and splat. So it's like, it's not a good way to go about making those scenes.
I almost feel like a lot of the things in Green Inferno felt kind of like, just felt satirized too. Like a lot of like, it almost felt kind of funny sometimes, except for like the part where is his name Eli? Is that the name of the nicest guy in the movie? Like the nicest person in the movie?
I'd have to double check.
Other than the protagonist becomes an asshole later. Sorry, no, she becomes a total asshole later.
Oh, the main dude,
the main woman.
Oh, that's right,
Justine. Thank you.
But you're right though, as far as like I felt like a lot of it was satire.
Yeah, it felt like really kind of funny. Some like the whole like spider almost bit my dick thing, and then there's like she gets saved by the whistle.
How so? She
uses the little whistle with the little native boy.
Oh,
and that's how she gets out because that kid is like, you're cool because you whistled at me. And like, I don't know. Like, he's just like, hi, you're being fun. I guess you can live and we won't eat you.
I don't know how that was like playing out. Now that I think about it, I think the weirdest thing besides people getting eaten, the weirdest thing watching the movie was the one girl who decided to just commit suicide in the cage.
That was because they were eating her friend.
Yeah, but it was like, I don't know, maybe it was just me personally. I was like, this is so random. Like, why did you?
She was sad. She was mourning.
I mean, yes, it's true that she's mourning. I still think that it was kind of weird. It felt a little it felt like an out of place death for her almost.
Oh man, you know what random thought just popped in my head? The fucking kid from Spy Kids is in this.
What?
The fucking Junie, the little fucking the younger brother. That's him.
Is that him?
Yeah, fucking look that shit up.
He's the little shit from
Spy Kids.
World's Greatest Dad?
Possibly. You should look that up.
I have to
What is the
know
name
now.
of the
I do. I
actor?
really have to know.
I'm not sure exactly of his name, but I know for a fact that's him because he looks the fucking same as when he was a little kid.
Oh shit!
Yeah, that's him. Yeah, you're welcome.
Daryl Christopher Sabara is the name of the actor.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was totally in that.
So he's in all those movies now.
Well, see, he has a weird running theme of just being in like really random movies, including like extra violent ones. And so, but it's also like, so Spy Kids has a weird connection to a lot of things because of the director, because Robert Rodriguez. So it's like fucking Danny Trejo is in that. The dude who played Machete shows up as their uncle. And so in some way, these movies are sort of connected. So Spy Kids is like in the world of Robert Rodriguez's films because of that.
That's so cool. So that's oh man.
Right.
Oh man, I'm like exploding. I didn't even know all of this. This is all new information to me. Wow. Super stoked.
He definitely did it on purpose, where he's like, well, I think he always wanted to make a story like that, and then later on got into making the sort of like Grindhouse movies that he was making, but still the same universe. It's kind of like what Tarantino does, where like he uses the same props and like cigarettes and shit for all his movies, so they're all technically in the same universe, so they end up creating their own sort of like mythos, I guess, where like all these characters exist in. That was his argument for using like the same actors and actresses, like they're all the same people in the same universe. So it was a weird explanation. I saw a weird interview with him once. I think he's much weirder than most people have been led to believe. Tarantino
likes feet.
All the feet shots in those movies. Lots of feet shots.
There's like a 30-minute video of all of the shots he's done.
I want to go on fucking record though that I think Quentin Tarantino in From Dusk Till Dawn was really cute.
Well,
but it's fucked up because he was like that super creepy. Like that was one
I
when
was
he was like
gonna
hitting
say.
on the fucking like the girl. I was like, oh man,
yeah,
like
he's hitting on the daughter like the whole time.
man, like why you gotta be a fucking creep?
He's
But
a
like
little crazy.
that's the kind of guy I go for is weird looking white dudes sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you also think a young Steve Buscemi was also attractive.
Because young Steve Buscemi was fucking. Don't give no.
He's the ugliest dude alive. I'm so sorry.
I know my mom has a dog that looks just like Steve Buscemi now.
A
as an
dog.
adult.
A dog. Just so everyone's clear, a dog.
Okay, but like there's pictures of like young Steve Buscemi, and then there's pictures of young Angelina Jolie, and they look very similar. Like their eyes. they
Wait,
still
you say
got that-
Angelina Jolie? Is that what you just said?
Yeah, isn't that her name?
Yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
just a weird comparison.
What's it called? No, there's like pictures of like the fucking both of them like put side to side like as kids
Yeah.
or when they're younger, and they have like the same fucked up eye thing going on and shit. Like
You guys want to know something really weird, which is related? Have you ever seen a young Joseph Stalin?
no,
Go ahead and Google young Joseph Stalin and tell me what you think
Hold
about
on.
him.
I'm doing
It's
this
gonna
Steve
weird you out.
Buscemi thing so you can fucking see it.
Oh, you're bringing up Steve Buscemi is what you're doing? Yeah, for anyone who's going to be listening. What the fuck? Oh my god. With
That's
those-
Angelina Jolie next to him.
yeah, well, obviously, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. They looked very similar at one point.
They both have a weird ass face too, so it's like it doesn't surprise me. But are you googling it, Mitch?
Who'd you say?
Fucking Stalin, Joseph Stalin.
Sorry, I didn't.
You know, the
Yeah.
Russian dictator. Yeah, that's the picture. Look at that picture.
That's really weird.
Show Percy that
I
picture.
know. I'm looking at it right now.
Looks like he goes to school around here.
Right. He looks like a fucking San Diego native who goes to state, like, definitely like one of those fucking hipsters. It's really weird. And I only discovered that because of a similar conversation with someone else where they're like, have you seen younger versions of these people? And it ended up being like, oh yeah, have you ever seen like a young fucking Joseph Stalin? I was like, no, why the fuck would I ever look that up? Like, I'm just looking up dictators when they were younger, like, no big deal. You know, I'm like, what did
That's what I do in my spare time.
Right, exactly. Like,
some of it's really interesting to watch sometimes though, because you hear like especially if you're paying attention to the language that's used sometimes.
right. Do you guys know about what Eli Roth said in response to the criticism that he received for the movie? He has a really interesting quote that he kind of brought up, and so I'll go ahead and read what he said. So basically they were saying that he was basically displaying the native peoples in the movie sort of in the wrong way. And so what he said was, the idea that a fictional movie about a fictional tribe could somehow hurt indigenous people when gas companies are tearing these villages apart on a daily basis is simply absurd. These companies don't need an excuse, they have one. The natural resources in the ground. They can window dress things however they like, but nobody will destroy a village because they didn't like a character in a movie. They'll do it because they want to get rich by draining what's under the village. The fear that somehow a movie would give them ammunition to destroy a tribe all sounds like misdirected anger and frustration that the corporations are the ones controlling the fates of these uncontacted tribes. So he sort of redirected the criticism on him and was like, what? These big companies are the ones that are really hurting these people.
I think that's what his movie's trying to say also, is that behind them there's like the tree logging companies. There's two of them that are fighting, and that's the reason why the students are even in it in the first place, is because they're both competing over land and they're just using the natives. In the movie it's stated that they already use the dangerous natives as an excuse for them going there.
Right.
They already use it. The activists, however, are under the assumption that these people aren't actually dangerous, et cetera, et cetera. They are totally fine and totally safe and everything else, and they're really not that bad. We should just stop this to save the native people. And so under that entire guise, they go. And they are basically lied to. They are lied to about everything. And the craziest bit is at the end of the movie where Justine, the main character, basically flips it around and makes herself seem like the hero by describing the natives as peaceful and keeping the narrative going.
Well, in addition to her doing that, doesn't one of them survive? One of the dudes survive and like stay there?
Alejandro, I think
end,
is his name. Yeah. That's the ending, like the mid-credit scene where his sister messages Justine and then says, oh, hey, there's a satellite image. And then you see him and he's covered in like the tribal paint, like to assume that he's like now, I guess, like the leader of the tribe or something.
Well, he's in all black, so I can only assume that he becomes sort of like the executioner, kind of how the other guy was. So like the really nice dude who gets pretty much like dismembered, where he gets all of his limbs cut off, the guy was painted all black. And so I was guessing that he took over his role and was like now like the executioner for the tribe and sort of taking up that spot. But I was sort of confused as to like, was this purely for his own survival, or was he just like a sick fuck and like wanted to get into being able to murder people like that?
He in the movie multiple times is willing to screw other people over for himself.
Right.
And he basically does that with the entire group.
That's fair.
Yeah. So, I mean, yes, absolutely. I guarantee you it's just for his own survival. He's saving his own teeth.
Oh, yeah.
He probably gains their respect because, you know, they lose, because at the end there's a group, the other logging company comes in with their riflemen and everything, and, you know, is going to push the narrative, the natives attacked us, so blah, blah, we shot them. Instead, they're just marching in there to kill all of them so that they can log in peace.
So they can log in peace.
Yeah.
So they can destroy a village in peace.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So they can log in, they can, do their thing in peace. And so it's very, maybe it says like be careful of the causes that you serve, like be mindful of things like that, and that's maybe some of the fear that's displayed in this movie, is the fear that the causes we follow are not always going to serve us the best in the end, and it's like to consider that. I think that's part of what the movie is trying to say.
Yeah, this seems also like a movie that the critics did not like very much. It like has like a 36% on Rotten Tomatoes and then like really low score on Metacritic and all the other ones. Do you guys think it's deserving of that? Of such a low score? It's
got a lot of awkward choices for things and stuff in it too, I think, and some of the acting's not the best, I would say. So it's like 50-50. Like, I think I get it, but I'm not sure. I was kind of like about the movie myself. I liked Cannibal Holocaust more, to be honest.
I think I did too, actually. Just because of the way that the lengths they went to make it realistic, so that when you watch it, you get that sort of experience watching it.
I think the special effects for that one also were one of the ones that did me, because I was very much like, wow, they are just legitimately murdering these people. Whereas in
Green Inferno.
in the Green Inferno, thank you. In Green Inferno, it's just so like over the top, but you can tell that it's not like, I can tell that that's a fake torso going in there. You know what I mean? I can tell that is fake. I can tell that is fake. That sort of deal. Whereas I didn't get that feeling, and the way they filmed it and did everything, it was very like sloppy and muddy and grimy, and that's what made it feel so real. It's like I'm actually watching people like, go and investigate these people.
It was a clever way for them to hide some of the editing and to make it a little more realistic by having this filter over pretty much everything. So do you think that was more of like budget, or they just knew what they were doing and they're like, we're going to purposefully film this way so that it becomes more realistic?
That guy knew what he was doing. I mean, it might have just been a budget thing too, but I feel like he knew what he was doing.
Let me see, actually. So for the Green Inferno.
Wait, are we talking about
Cannibal
Holocaust?
I just want to, we are talking about Cannibal Holocaust. I just want to mention the budgets. So like, we know from the last episode that Feast lost a whole bunch of like they had like a $3 million budget and only made like 656,000. So like they lost like a couple million on it. The Green Inferno is interesting because it got shitty reviews. It had a budget of 5 million, and the box office it made 12.9 million.
Whoa! What?
So it like nearly doubled its budget as far as like people going to watch it and being excited about watching it. And so you had like a huge difference on that. So they made their money back, even though people kind of didn't really like the movie. And then with Cannibal Holocaust, check this out. They had a budget of $100,000. $100,000 to make this movie. Their box office earnings was $2 million in the United States.
Holy shit!
And that's like before inflation and everything too. So that's like way.
That's
more.
In 1980.
Yeah.
Is that they made that much money. So by today's standards, they probably would have continued making more of these movies. If one of the companies now had gotten their hands on it, they'd be like, we're going to make a Cannibal Holocaust 2, 3, 4, 5 because this made so much money. But it was I think it was also because of all the controversy that surrounded it, where it was like people thought it was real. So they were like, I got to see this and see if it's like for themselves to see if it's legitimate. And so it ended up adding to sort of like the effects surrounding the movie, which I don't think I've really seen since then. Like, I don't think there's really been a horror film that like tried to make it as realistic as possible, or they did too much CGI and we know it's fake.
Yeah, I have not seen too many movies that tried to do like that, really pulled off that like gritty, that like really gritty like feeling, I guess. You know what I mean? Like the film looks messy, probably also because of it's like 80s production and whatnot.
Right.
So it looks messy, but it's also like the choices they used, like I want to say like the shots are also very like they did a lot of, it was like a combination of skilled camera work, some good special effects, and like, that sort of deal, as well as their low production costs, as we can see, probably also played into that as well. And that made it a little bit more believable, I guess, to me.
In a way, it forces you to be creative in different ways. And so in their case, they were trying to find alternatives to like how they could make something seem realistic, and it worked out for them because they obviously made a lot of money back on this movie, which is really like, I feel like I haven't heard the director's name besides this movie. What else has he done? I'm not aware of anything else that he's made.
He did a bunch of other cannibal films.
Oh, he just kept doing it? He just kept going with the cannibal movies?
Give me a second. His name is Ruggero Deodato.
Okay.
Yeah, in France, he gets the nickname of Monsieur, how do you pronounce that? Cannibal. Like,
oh my God.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
How did he gain that sort of title, that moniker?
When you make a cannibal movie that makes you like, what was it, $1.9 million, you get a nickname.
Right. What? That's kind of cool, actually. I want like a nickname sort of bestowed on me for making certain kind of films. That'd be cool. What do you think your nickname would be, Mitch?
I always fantasize about being called Grim Squid for some reason, but it always sounded really dorky to me. So I'm just like, I'll let other people give me nicknames. That's better.
Why does this sound like a 40K knockoff reference?
I don't know, man. I like Lovecraftian things.
You're thinking of Grim Dank or Grim Dark.
Like
the Grim Dark.
Grim
Yeah.
Dawn.
Like the Grim Dark of War is coming.
The Grim Dark, the Grim Squid.
And or Squidbillies.
Yeah,
That show
I
was
guess.
so good.
There's one line from that show that I always remember, and it's the dad, the squid dad, whatever his name is, and he's like looking for some other person. He looks over and the person's dead, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I forgot, we done killed that son of a bitch." And you're like, "What the fuck?" That whole show is ridiculous. It was all on Adult Swim, and I fucking loved watching that. In addition to all the weird shows that they brought on, I really want them to bring back the Mighty Boosh.
I need them to bring back Lucy, Daughter of the Devil.
Also, that dude, that's a. They didn't play that for very long.
With DJ Jesus.
Oh my god. Wait, what was Mr. Pickles was the other one.
Oh, that's a good one. Moral Oral. If they give me more of Moral Oral, because like growing up in a Christian household, like
It's
that
fucked up.
show was like, I was like, oh shit. Like,
Right.
The Oblongs was really
Yeah.
good. There's another show.
Moral Oral. That was with the little boy and
Little
his
Christian
dad,
boy,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
I remember all these shows. It's been so long since I like actually watched them. Like I have not watched Adult Swim in so long.
Adult Swim went through this weird time period where they were just showing you really fucked up things.
Yep.
They have a short, I think it's like a short, and it's called Perfect Hair Forever, and it was like super, like a lot of people didn't watch it, but it was about this like little like samurai boy or something that was like
Okay.
trying to get his hair fixed, and like he had to go talk to a tree, I think, to get it like fixed or something. But it was super weird because like his sensei was this like super pervy old man. They had like the stereotypical like hot Japanese girl in it and everything. It was
Okay.
so really good short. It was terrible, but it was like super fucking funny.
There's a really good anime short that came out not too long ago that's like basically this guy sitting in his room all by himself, and it was at one of the anime cons, and it's like this guy just like wasting away in his room, but it's the most like colorful and immersive like art piece I've ever seen. And he just like runs into like the anime screen and starts becoming those characters, and then
Oh, shit.
it starts showing him how like all of his life of him like obsessing over video games has just led him to nothing. And it's just like it's very, very I'll remember what it's called later, and then I'll tell you.
There's actually a creepypasta based off of a Adult Swim short. It's the Dawn is Your Enemy one
I
that will
love that
come
one.
on at like some like stupid ass time in the morning. That
It's
freaks,
the end of it. It's
yeah,
the last bump.
Yeah, like that freaks me out. I do not
Yeah.
like thinking about that short because like I always like remember because it would come on at like what, like 3 in the morning, like
No,
3:34,
it was,
somewhere around there.
So
Because
it's
that's around
over.
the time.
It's over officially at like 4:30 or 5 in the morning, and then they would play this final bump, which is the sun coming over the
yeah,
edge
with
of a
the
hill.
eyes on it.
Yeah, it has
oh, I
specific
can, like,
eyes,
see it
and it
now.
says the dawn is your enemy in the sky. And then they changed it originally. So the one that the story is based off of, originally the background noise was just unexplainable noise, which
Yeah.
included screams, weird machinery parts. It sounded like people getting tortured at some point. And so someone's like, I want to write a creepypasta based off
Yep.
this. And they did that. And so you read the creepypasta, and then you go and rewatch it, and it freaks you out when you watch
Yeah.
it.
I cannot look at it since like reading the
It
creepypasta about it. I
gained
can't.
so much popularity that they had to change it. That's why you'll watch it now, and it doesn't have that noise effect anymore.
I don't even think they use that as a short anymore.
I
I have not seen it as a
maybe.
short in like
I haven't
years.
I haven't watched it in a while.
Yeah, no, I think it's gone.
Yeah, they took it
But
away.
like it makes so much, like it was, oh my god, like I already was like super unsettled by it, like just
Right.
watching it originally, then reading the creepypasta and watching it, and I was like, all right, never again. Like I would know too when it's gonna come on. I'm like, oh, it's that time of the fucking night. I gotta change my channel. Like, you know, like, ooh, that is a creepy ass pasta.
I woke up to that bump playing, and that was pretty.
That's horrifying.
That was pretty scary.
Especially when you're coming out of like the sleep haze. So you're
Right.
still trying to like, all right, my reality is this, trying to figure it out, but all of a sudden you wake up and like in your reality is that noise, and you're just like, okay, I'm gonna die now.
Well, what was interesting about the way that they set up the cartoons for that was, so you would get this bump, and then it would go straight into early morning cartoons. So you would get like Astro Boy that showed up like right back to it. So it would go from this really creepy thing to like the most wholesome cartoon you'd seen in a long time. And then they would do like Astro Boy, and then I can't remember what the other cartoon was that they played, but I used to watch it in the morning because I used to get up super early for
Big O.
Yeah, that's it. They used to play Big O really early in the morning, and I would watch it all while eating breakfast before I went to high school. Or no, middle school is where I was mostly watching it. And then as I went into high school, I would stay up late on the weekends because of Toonami. And you remember when they brought that back?
Ooh, Toonami was the best, and I am so sad that when they let it go and then they brought it back. Is it still a thing now? Because
Yeah.
I feel like it's still a thing, but it's
Well-
like, to me, it's not the same as it was like when it started. Like Toonami was fucking sick.
What they did was it lost a lot of popularity originally, and so they took it out of their lineup. And then as an April Fool's joke one year, they brought back Toonami with no announcements. So if you were up during that time, which I was, it just started playing. So you're sitting there, you're watching, and you're like, oh, whatever, they're going to play another cartoon. And then the intro music and Tom shows up to like introduce Toonami again. And you're like, this can't be real. Like, and then they just went through their original lineup. They played like all the animes they used to play. And the very next day, there was articles about it everywhere because they were like, people were stoked on it. It got so much viewership that they brought back Toonami, and it's been a thing ever since because people missed it. They wanted to watch this every Saturday night. That was like a lot of people's introductions into random anime that they'd watch, or at least the most popular ones, where you'd end up watching like the Ghost in Shell and like Inuyasha and shit like that.
Gundam Wing was on there too.
Gundam Wing was on it.
Did y'all hear wait, hold on. They're making a live action of, I think it's Gundam. Give me a second. I can't remember.
Is it Cowboy Bebop?
No.
Oh, okay.
Whoa.
They are doing it. They are doing a live action of that. I'm not mistaken. Last time I heard.
But they're doing. Hold on, I'll tell you right now. But they're doing I think it's Gundam. But the person,
God,
yeah. So they're doing a live action Gundam, and the person who is writing it is Brian K. Vaughan, who created Saga.
Yeah.
So I'm actually, if he does well on this, I'm actually super excited because Saga is a damn good comic. So
I wonder if he was like in the boardroom with somebody and convinced them to let him do it because he's been good at sci-fi fantasy writing. So that sounds like a good fit, actually. I wouldn't be surprised if it comes out to be really good.
I am so excited for that.
Which arc are they going to focus
I'm
on
not
for the
sure.
Gundam? Because I know there was like the super original, and then there was like 4 or 5 different ones after that where they're like much younger. But I wonder if they'll go back to the original. That'd be really cool to see something like that. Did you guys ever see Speed Racer? The actual like film, like live action.
The live action film? Yes, I did.
What'd you think about it? No?
I did not enjoy that movie.
Why'd you not enjoy it?
I don't think I liked the animation. I didn't really it didn't make me feel like I was watching the show either. It didn't feel like the show to me.
No, they definitely did.
And I wanted them to do sort of a little tiny homage to that, a little bit.
I feel like they did.
But it just wasn't enough for me, man.
Oh,
not enough for me to be entertained. I guess maybe I'm not a big enough Speed Racer fan to really enjoy it. Maybe that's what it is.
I fucking love that movie.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's weird.
What do you like about that movie? Why did you like it so much?
Well, so yeah, I used to watch a lot of Speed Racer cartoons, and it reminded me a lot of it because of they had shitty acting, but I feel like it was almost on purpose where they were like acting a certain way, and then to have people like John Goodman be in it as the dad seemed really fitting for like whoever the like main character was, or at least his dad. And then for some reason Speed Racer fit really well, like that character or the guy that they chose for it, and sort of how that all plays out. And then they did change a few things, but the racing itself and all of the action was completely absurd. Like the cars are doing like multiple flips and like hitting each other, so like it broke so many different like conventions of what you were expecting for it. So like they try to bring it into this real life world, but it was still the anime world to them because like everything was in focus. Like there was never anything that was sort of like out of focus on screen, and they end up just doing all these crazy action scenes and the way it played out. You know what it reminded me of? Have you seen an anime called Redline?
No, I have not.
If you like racing movies, I guess, or anything to do with like car racing, you'll enjoy Redline, because the whole movie is just about them doing this illegal race on some random like robot planet. And like that's it. The whole movie is about how they enter the race, how they like build their cars, and then just the entire race for the rest of the movie.
Oh, it's an anime movie?
Yeah, it's an anime movie.
Oh, you know what? Another anime movie I saw not too long ago that was really good, that was like almost like Studio Ghibli like quality.
Which one?
Was the Summer Wars.
I actually don't know that one.
Really, really good. If you can find it, I highly recommend watching it. It's like about how your Facebook tries to murder you.
What?
And so it's like it's basically like everybody. They basically have this this networking software they create. I can't remember what it's called, but like corporations are hooked into it. People manage their money through it. The military uses it. The government, like everyone uses it. So all of these people are locked into this little virtual world that they have all of their personal information and everything in. And so somebody develops a virus that takes control of that area.
Shit.
And then like essentially it gets nuts, dude. The grandma in that is one of the most badass characters. She is so fucking awesome. She like in the movie she ends up like she knows, like she gets like some sort of clue that she's gonna be offed, and she wants to help her family out because they're like in the middle of this horrible crisis that's going on, because they're like, oh, the satellite that's floating above you is going to fall on your house because the virus, you're trying to fight this virus, and the virus wants to murder all of you, so it's going to drop a satellite on your house. Sort of stuff like that. And so she like calls up a whole bunch of like military friends of hers from like back in the day, and has like military like level like servers brought in so that they can like battle the thing, and like the whole family gets in on it, and it's hilariously awesome. It's such a good movie. And like you'll just feel like warmth and like joy, and you'll feel like fear, and you'll feel like triumph, and it's like all the things you want out of anime, and then all the things you love about like Ghibli type stuff. Yeah. Like that, like all of that type stuff. Really good movie. Highly recommend.
I'm gonna check that out. You gotta remind me of it before you leave today.
The Summer Wars. It's the shit.
Percy is nodding their head very eagerly.
It sounds like I looked it up, so I was like,
and
oh, looks
you're
like
I gotta watch it now.
Yeah, I think the last like anime like movie or whatever that I watched was Gantz. It's on Netflix.
What is that good?
That movie was really good. It was a lot better than I expected to be. I was like, shit. Cool. Yeah, like that whole universe and like the concept of Gantz is a chill ass like that's some shit you should look into. It's really good. Like it's completely different than fucking Summer Wars. It is not
it's
cute
totally
in any fucking kind of sense.
Gantz is like these people that die in the real world, and then like right before they die, they're chosen by this cyborg being.
It's like a big ass black orb, right?
Yeah, it's a big orb, but it's got a dude. There's a dude in it.
Oh shit!
So I've seen. I own this whole anime on like DVD, so I've watched it too many times. But Gantz is this cyborg being that like selects these people. They're usually not very good people either. They have something like they're probably kind of a little fucked up in some way. And they die in some way, and then they are like materialized in this room and then told, okay, you want your life back? Go hunt these aliens.
Oh shit.
And so like nobody in the world can see them, but they interact with like these aliens that exist in this world, and they're told to go hunt them, and if they like stop going, they instantly die, and there's all these other complications.
It's really fucking good. Like the movie that they made for it is good.
Mm-hmm. Like, I've seen like a portion of that.
You should watch it.
Okay, I'll have to finish it.
I actually really liked it.
The newest, speaking of animes, because I've had kind of like a hiatus from like seriously investing in animes, but I recently watched I think it's called Outsiders.
Yeah,
Outsiders, is that the one that it's on?
I'm pretty sure.
Outsiders. It's basically like, they're Outlanders. I think Outlanders or Outsiders. I like have to look it up now. But basically, what the concept of this anime is that people from history die. So like there's one like a Japanese general who's fighting a war that he's gonna lose, and he like does his like last stand where he's like a voracious warrior. He like charges across like a line of pikemen and just gets skewered after like offing their general and lopping off his head, and then he dies. And then he gets put into a fantasy world with elves and shows up there.
Oh my god.
And then he starts encountering people from his country's past, from like past clans and whatnot, who have ended up in the same place because they died. And so it's hilarious, and they all meet up. They all start talking about politics and how like their clans failed. Like, what? My clan isn't doing what they were supposed to do? God damn it! And like that sort of thing.
That sounds fucking awesome.
At one point, Joan of Arc shows up, and she's evil.
Oh.
And she's a bad character because she was burned at the stake for being a witch. So she has like all that animosity, so it's made her evil.
Okay.
And then another one is like a fighter pilot from like World War II shows up randomly and like fights a dragon. It's great. It's so good. Like he's going down and then he throws through a portal and shows up and there's a dragonfly. He's like, what the hell? He's like super Americanized for an anime, and he's like, what the hell is that? A goddamn dragon?
I love when they do that. That's one of my favorites.
Super
the
funny.
Parody of like the American.
Oh yeah, they
character.
totally make Americans like loudmouth and ridiculous. Totally.
Always. I appreciate those.
Oh, same.
Those make me laugh anytime I see them. The last like really good anime that I saw that I hadn't seen before was Nausicaa, the Valley of the Wind, the one by Miyazaki.
Mm-hmm.
That's like crazy good to me, and I'm surprised I hadn't seen it up until like a few weeks ago. But just like this post-apocalyptic world where a girl is able to communicate with like giant bugs, basically, that live in this like toxic forest or jungle that they are like nearby. And she uses that power to try to bring like world peace, basically. But just the artwork is crazy good, and it's like the older style of animation where like it looks like it was all hand drawn. So there's not really any like CGI that shows up in it. It was a really good movie. So I would recommend that one. And then, what was the other one? what was the most recent one Miyazaki released? It was like The Wind Rises, I think was the other one. That's like the most recent one I think he made.
And Princess, I was gonna say Kamigawa, but like that's magic. So anyway,
right. Magic the Gathering.
Princess Kagome. Nope, it's not Kagome. That's a different
That's
anime.
Inuyasha.
That's Inuyasha. What the fuck?
We know all the
Princess,
animes.
we know all the anime. Fucking what is it? What is that?
Right.
It's a really Princess Kaguya. It's Princess Kaguya. It's a really good movie. It's actually done in the same style of art form as like old Japanese art.
Okay.
So it's all hand drawn like that.
Oh, shit.
And it's a really good, fantastic movie. Highly recommend watching it. It's gorgeous, beautiful.
Right. Welcome to episode 6 of this podcast where we all know a lot about anime.
Yeah, apparently we all watch more of that. Apparently we spent more time talking about other things than these 2 movies.
I think in a way I did want to talk about them because they are shocking in some ways, for me at least. And I think I was more enthusiastic to talk about them when I first thought about it. And then after watching them, realized that I have a much different view about this sort of movies and the content after taking a lot of film analysis classes and then like sort of changing like some of the views I have of movies overall. And so I think in a way it was interesting, but not quite as interesting as I expected. So this turned out differently than I was expecting, and I ended up enjoying talking a lot about anime. So I might have to do a bit about anime horror or something.
There's a horror anime, and I'm pretty sure it's called, I think it's called Another.
Okay.
And that anime is about a bunch of like, I think they're like middle school age. And you can find like death compilations of this on YouTube because it's like a super intense anime. And there's a scene where one of the characters is holding an umbrella and she like falls down some stairs and the umbrella like stabs her in the neck. And like it's just shown like that anime is nuts.
I've seen that video show up on like Facebook randomly. I don't know why it even gets brought on there, but it's always that death scene.
All right, so I've seen Another. I've seen like at least a decent portion of it, and it's kind of like the Final Destination of animes. That's really what it is. It's just Final Destination in anime form because they all just like, and there's probably some supernatural connection to one of the female characters in it.
Right.
But I don't remember all of their names though.
Oh yeah, there's
but they're all just grotesque. It's like watching like School Days. Anybody ever seen School Days?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, it's a really violent harem anime sort of thing where all these girls are after this one guy, and like there's like multiple endings you can watch where like he gets with a different girl, and like one of them gets pregnant or like fakes about a pregnancy, but then murders the one girl to prove that she's a liar, and like rips open her stomach and is like, see, there is no actual baby in there. She's lying to you. I love you the most, more than this one.
Man, you went to a dark part of it.
There's one that like fucking she gets pushed in front of a train, like the rival girl pushes the other girl in front of a train, and just like it's nonsense.
The only one that stands out in my mind is because those compilation videos like to pop up all over the internet for some reason, or at least they keep suggesting it to me, which is like, am I searching weird things? Anyway, they like are showing me this one anime where this one girl gets picked up by like her legs and then just gets ripped right in half by this monster that's like holding her, and it's like a slow rip.
Have you seen the Silent Hill film that came out in like 2006 or something? Because like I'm pretty sure that's like a legit ass scene from that movie. Like it's not an anime film, but like Pyramid Head like picks up a fucking chick and like fucking just whoop and just like rips off her skin first and then like rips off. That was one of the first movies I went on a date to see that movie.
This was such an interesting
It
transition.
was like my first date
Also,
was a Silent Hill film.
Notice the softness of your voice when you mentioned that you went on a
Because
date.
I love horror film dates. They're so great. Like if you can sit and watch a horror film with me, and especially something like that, and still want to kiss me afterwards. Like it was like, oh, I watched this scene. He like turned over and kissed me on the cheek afterwards. I was like, you're a keeper.
Oh my god. So is this one of your what's the word not requirements, but like one of the things you gauge for somebody when you first meet
I'd
them?
like to know if they're gonna like watch. Like,
are they gonna be
horror
more
films.
scared than you are watching a horror film?
Yeah, like there's a guy that I'm talking to now that like just doesn't like horror films at all, and he's really cool. But I'm like, wow,
Right.
like what a life. Like,
There's a
what
lot of
life to
people who
live.
don't like horror films.
It makes people uncomfortable, man. It's
Yeah.
like saying they're extreme. You know, horror movies, dude, are like the death metal of the film world. Really, man. It's like they are shocking. They're grotesque. they are intentionally made to make you feel that way.
Right.
And some people love that. They love being able to feel scared or feel disgusted or feel something along those lines. You know, it's almost like you're like, you know, and that's kind of what I mean. That's like what I would say. Like if I'm going to compare music, and like the fan bases are also cross a lot of the times.
Yep.
People who love death metal and stuff also tend to typically gravitate towards like horror movies and that sort of thing. That aesthetics also heavily like followed in that. But it's like kind of like that. Like a lot of people like that genre of music. Really, it's not really everyone's cup of tea. It's super niche. And but horror also is a little bit broader.
Right.
In spectrum, I would say, because you have like goofy horror that's kind of fun and silly, like, you know, you're like Evil Dead 2 and stuff, where it's kind of like, this is fun. And then you have like Saw and like stuff where, you know, these people are actually like it's made to make you believe that thing's happening. And then there's even more it gets more extreme.
I'm gonna insert the clip where you said, do you want to play a game from a couple episodes
Do
ago.
you want to play the game?
Right there. I'm gonna insert it right after you say that. See, this is why I'm saving all of them.
One day it's just going to be a bunch of shit Mitch has said in a microphone.
Right, pretty much. Well, okay, so, before I ask you guys sort of like the wrap-up question, I have to say that I have become, so I'm easily scared watching scary movies, and I think it's gotten worse lately as I've gotten older, and I don't know why like that's sort of happening, but I keep anticipating that I'm going to be writing or like on set for a horror film, and I'm probably just gonna be nervous the entire time because I'm just easily scared. Like my cat jumps up on the couch and scares me sometimes. Like that's how easy it is for me to get scared. And so I'm trying to figure out, like, is this just normal anxiety? But like I still want to watch them. Like I want to know what's gonna happen. And so I'll do the thing where you like bring up your hands over your eyes, but you can still kind of see through them what's going on, or like get a blanket or a pillow or something.
Yeah, I feel like I thought I was more scared recently now until like I realized like I look at a lot of like really weird shit. So then I realized like I'm a lot less scared of things, because I'll like sit there and I'll do the same thing, like the eye thing, and then I'll sit and watch and go, oh shit, that wasn't that bad. And I'm like, oh fuck, like I wasn't as scared. But like normal shit freaks me out. Like people fucking coming up to me like and they go, hey, and like jumpy and shit. I'm like, fuck, don't touch me, like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like I get scared, but then I'm like, oh, somebody's getting fucking murdered on screen, or oh, it's a jump scare, oh, I'm fine. Like, you know what I
Dang,
mean?
are
Like,
you just
I'm like,
not responding to jump scares?
like so like recently I was watching, so I was like really jumpy through fucking Hereditary. Like there was parts of it where I was
Right.
kind of like, oh shit,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? But then like me and my best friend were watching like another fucking horror film or something after it, and I was like perfectly fine. Like I just sat there and I was like, and he's like, fuck, you know what I mean? I'm like, what? What are you scared about? Like,
Right.
like I've been finding myself like that more recently, where I'm like sitting through shit now and not as scared. And I'm like, oh shit, Percy, like something in your brain has switched the fuck off, because before I used to be like, no, fuck, everything scares me. And now I'm like, that guy got his head cut off, fucking.
Oh my god, that laugh. You guys are just giving me all sorts of content that I'm gonna end up saving for sound bits.
I mean, I kind of agree with both you guys, though, that, I mean, at least I agree more with Jonathan. Mine's not visual, though. Mine's always audio.
Oh, really?
I have to cover my ears because I anticipate loud music and like those noise. So I cover my ears usually because I hate that. I don't mind if something visually shocking is going to come at me. I'm okay with this. I'm okay with that because I sometimes like the aesthetic. Sometimes I think it looks really good on film and whatnot. But if they're going to like throw a really loud horn blare into the thing when something jumps at me,
Right.
I'm going to get scared because of the noise, not because of the thing.
That's fair.
That's
You know, a lot
been
of the
so
times.
fucking me. Like, so, like, I have the same thing. Like, a lot of visual shit now does not freak me out as much as sound. Like, fucking, I'll sit here and listen to a fucking podcast on horror and get freaked the fuck out. And it's just the noise that's in the fucking podcast. I'm like, oh my God, this is the most, like there's another podcast, the No Sleep podcast, where they read a lot of those stories off of, like, Reddit's No Sleep.
Yes.
And they did a really fucking good one where it was just some of the ambient fucking noise. Like I was driving back home from my mom's house on like unmarked roads
Oh,
and
yeah,
shit.
that is a bad
And I had
idea.
to like pause the fucking thing and put on like children's music. Like I was putting on like Disney and shit. Cause I was like, wow, like this is where I fucking die. Like, you know what I mean? I'm
Right.
like, this is the fucking thing. But it was like the sound, like it would get like super quiet and then all of a sudden it's like, bow, like, you know what I mean? The sound, I'm like, fuck, like, you know, I'm like, shit, like I'm in this car by myself and I'm like, shit, it's raining and shit, you know what I mean? I feel like shit smacking the side of my car. So it's like, it fucks with your psyche. Like I think sound hella plays a big thing in this shit. Cause you can watch a horror film with no sound and it's not fucking scary.
Tons of movies are
Yeah.
like that. If you watch Jaws and that whole scene without the music,
Yeah.
not even the same effect. It's super boring. You're just like, oh, I'm swimming through water. Who gives a shit?
I think that video exists somewhere on YouTube because someone wanted to do that experiment. It was similar to like the no laugh track.
Yeah, fucking The Big Bang Theory. Fucking terrible TV show.
I hate the Big Bang
Oh
Theory.
yeah, no,
Like
I
that
regrettably
without
used to watch it. But, yeah.
like that show without the soundtrack, like that teaches, like that shows you when to fucking laugh, because that show is cringy as fuck.
Yeah. I don't know what's more upsetting, the fact that they make so much money for each episode, or that they're like legitimate like doctors and stuff like that, like on the show.
Yeah, like something like one of the women on there, she has like a math theory named after and shit. And I'm like, girl, like that show is cringy
they're
as
making a good
fuck,
money,
dude,
so like I can't be too mad at them, but it's still like, God, they're making like over $1 million each episode.
It's probably more fun to act in a nerdy comedy show and kind of make fun of yourself in your own like group than it is to sit there and do equations all day long. It's probably more not saying that one's more useful than the other at all. I would say that probably she should probably go do the math thing if she's capable, because she obviously is. But
right.
yeah, I agree though the show is super super cringe, and it makes fun of like the absolute fringe of like nerd culture for the most part, and then is also just making a mockery of something that's getting popular now, which is why it's popular, because they're like, I'm nerdy, I see so much in myself in Leonard. I had a girl once tell me that you're just like the Leonard to my Penny. Oh fuck. Oh fuck.
God.
I was so like, in my head I'm just like, well, I'm breaking up with you in like a couple minutes now. Anyway,
Side question though, if we're talking like about that, what character couple, like who do you want to find the counterpart to? Because like on my like dating profiles, I want to find the Jake Peralta to my Amy Santiago from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, because like they're super fucking cute. So like if you had to pick like, I'm this character looking for my blank, who would the couple be?
Oh, man, I got to think about that one for a second, because
give me a moment.
I can think of a few different ones.
Yeah, because I want like Amy Santiago and Jake Peralta. I want Morticia and Gomez. And then I think there's like one other couple, like I always think, oh, it's like a League of Legends fucking couple, which is Rakan and Zaya. And I'm like, those are like my three. I'm like, yes, that's where I want to fucking be at. Like,
well, yeah, of course, the Addams family comes in for the parents. Obviously, I'd like to be Gomez and to find Morticia, and so that's like one of the first ones. The other one I could think of, Mitch looks happy. What's a
cool power couple?
Yeah,
like in a movie,
like that you want. Like if you were to put like, I'm trying to find the blank to my blank.
Right.
If I was trying to find the blank to my blank.
Yeah, say you're
like when I said I'm trying to I want to find the Jake Peralta to my Amy Santiago. Who do you want to find to your blank? Yeah.
Dude, the Zoe to my Wash from Firefly.
Oh my God. I was like, are you talking about Firefly right now?
Totally, I'm talking about Firefly right now.
That's you look so pleased with that answer. You're like, yeah,
I'm here for
that's
this.
a pretty
I
legitimate
get you,
one. Yeah. The only other one I think of like almost immediately is like Star Wars characters, but it's like it's sort of fucked up because it's like Darth Vader and it's like it's Anakin and Padme, but it's like but I'm not trying to fucking kill her is the point. Anyway,
because your girlfriend sits in the back like, oh shit.
No, there's obviously way better couples in that series, but they just don't end up happening all that well because Star Wars likes to kill off couples.
There's not a lot of, in my, like, it was hard for me because that was the first couple I thought of when you guys asked that, like a power couple. And of all the movies I've ever watched, like the one that was like, that was the first one I thought of. Like no. I even know Anakin and Padme, and then I know those other two characters as well. I've seen Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
I'm so not no. What I originally had thought of was of course Han Solo and
okay, there you go. All right,
because that's like the original. Okay. I just wanted to say Anakin and her because he like chokes her out and fucking kills her, but that's like a whole different.
Understood.
That's not. That was terrible.
Can we bring the girlfriend on this? Like,
right, she's like,
she can redeem everything.
Right,
Justine, what do you think?
For everyone's reference, my girlfriend is sitting about 10 feet away from me and is like, no, that's not what I agreed to for this. What is this? No, just I was totally kidding with Anakin and Padme because that was rough to watch because they're not good at acting. And then, Natalie Portman is, but watching Hayden Christensen being like a really whiny baby, kind of how like Kylo Ren is.
Let's not. I feel like I had a conversation about Star Wars with my roommate recently, and how like how shitty the fan base kind of is, because like they pushed like Hayden Christensen to like not do fucking acting anymore, and like
That's fucked up.
it's also
I
like
agree.
how like with like The Last Jedi was shit. Like, let's be honest, but like, you know what I mean?
Whoa.
Like it was a terrible movie. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Well,
but like the fucking
no.
it had its parts, but like the whole fucking gambling planet could have been taken out of this fucking
That's
movie.
fair. You know what?
First
You're
and
right.
foremost, and
Yeah.
fucking Rose is her name. Like the actress for Rose, I feel so bad that I don't know her name. Like now I'm doing her a hell of
She had
disjustice.
to delete like social
Instagram
media.
and shit, yeah, because people were being like pieces of shit about the fucking film. Like, I get you don't like a character. Ray's character is pretty fucking meh to me, but I fucking love the actress. But I'm not gonna be a piece of shit to the actress, be like, fuck Daisy Ridley. You know what I mean? It's like, no, she didn't write the fucking script. She didn't fucking, you know what I mean? Like the girl who plays Rose or whatever, she didn't write the fucking script, so it's not her fault that the character got fucking portrayed shittily. So like, that makes me feel really bad. Like I don't think like actors should be pushed to like shit like that because like people didn't like, and it's always like nerdy movies. I feel like where it's like the fan base is
for
like
sure.
that too, where it's like, oh fucking here's me fucking
Oh,
going
they're
on my horse about my shit. Like, yeah, it's just
super
it's
picky.
fucking nonsense. Yeah, I'm like, fuck, just let them fucking live their lives. Like,
Oh yeah, for sure. I think one of the biggest things that they end up forgetting is that most of the films that are being made now, it's not made for like full-grown adults. For most of these, like they definitely are trying to aim for like a certain audience for it, and so it ended up not being made for them. But in a lot of weird ways, they took the storyline to different areas that wasn't like what people were expecting. I was more making fun of the fact that like the way that they handled the evolution of Darth Vader's character was sort of weird to me, especially with like how sudden it is that like he finds Padme and then like it doesn't work out like at all for him in like such a short amount of time.
I
is
thought
what was
like
really-
didn't Padme like fucking encounter him as like a child?
Yeah, it
and
was
then
very
like
weird.
wait for him, like, you know what I mean? Like, it was kind of fucking weird.
She's
like,
definitely much older, but I feel like in a way he sort of like forced this romance onto her at some point. And like I've talked about it with a bunch of people where I'm like, it was weird because she's much older than him, and you get to see a clear visual of it, like in the first movie where he's a child and she shows up and she's maybe like 18, 19. Then he gets a little older and she's probably like mid-20s, late 20s or something like
I hate sand.
that. You just had to quote one of the original lines from that movie. No, and then I think what ended up happening later was I didn't like the way Kylo Ren's character kind of came out to play, but I didn't like him originally, and then I think he got better.
It hurts my fucking soul because I love Kylo.
He got better though. I think he got better in the
good
films.
through all of them.
No.
Like,
He's pretty much he's what Anakin would have become if he hadn't gotten burned. And what Anakin was becoming was just this really like whiny, why can't I have the power that I want sort of deal.
I don't see him as whiny. That's the thing. Like, he's showing off like intense emotion,
Right.
in which you don't get in a lot of other fucking like villains and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, this is like a huge criticism of his character, was that he was so emotional, and it was like, oh, like we have this like bitch boy fucking character. When I was like, no, sorry that this man has a full capable range of fucking emotions. You celibate carrot, like, you know what I mean? Like, what the fuck, like, you know what I mean? Like, it was just fucking night. Like, this shit made me so mad. Like, I was like, fuck.
I have a specific reason why I didn't like his character in the first movie he showed up in, but I liked him in the following movies as we got to know more about him and like why he was acting a certain way. It wasn't so much his emotions that was a problem. Like, it's good to have emotional depth for a character. It was that he sort of lost a lot of his menacing like character like qualities as soon as he lost his mask. Like like you see him in the beginning of the first movie, like the first of the trilogy, he cuts down this old man who used to be like one of his teachers, and you're like, all right, yeah, this is one of the new Sith like apprentices that's coming up and wants to like take over. And then he removes his helmet, and it's almost like all of the like evil menacing characteristics that were with him were gone suddenly. And I don't know if that was purposeful.
See, that's the thing. I don't see it that way, and I don't feel like it was supposed to be portrayed. Like, I feel like that's where a lot of the criticism comes, is like people were like, "Oh, he's like emasculated by taking off his mask," which to me is really strange.
I wouldn't go that far,
like,
but yeah, I get you.
That's like hardcore people's like,
Yeah.
you know, like fucking like portrayals of this, and I don't see it that way. Like, I felt like him taking off like the mask, like it made him more fucking relatable. Like, there's a lot. It's like, I'm gonna fucking bring this to another movie, but like, Thanos from Infinity War, if you really fucking think about it, is extremely fucking relatable. Like, the shit, like, if, like, he's one of those villains where you're kind of like, oh, fuck.
He's
Like, you
kinda
know what I
right.
mean? Like,
The
yeah,
worst
like,
villains
like,
are right.
Like,
or
I'm
the
not
best
trying to sit
villains
here and
are
be
right.
like, we need to kill off half of the fucking population. But like, he's like, like, oh, my fucking home was decimated by these kinds of things, and I'm just trying to do this so future generations don't go through that. And like, when you really sit there and think about it, you're like, oh shit, like Thanos was kind of fucking right. Like, it's like you have Killmonger and Black Panther, where like you had a lot of people that were like, wow, like this is a super fucking
man,
racist film.
no.
But like, if you really think of Killmonger as like fucking like what he wanted, like he was pissed off that Wakanda left black people and made them and let them fucking suffer through what they had. And he was like, this is bullshit. I want to bring fucking Wakanda to the world and bring, so we like black people don't have to go through this. His fucking father was killed. Like, you have these like relatable ass villains that they're like is becoming like this like presidents that I want to say. And like, I really like that. Like, Kylo Ren to me is like one of those first ones that I really saw where I was like, oh shit, like this is someone who's like, I want to live up to this image. And as someone who like had to constantly live up to like an older siblings like fucking like to what they did.
Oh, so like the
it
relation to
makes
the
a lot of
legacy then at
sense.
some point for him.
Yeah, like, you know, like he's a super fucking like he take like in the mask with the mask on, he's a like he's a super brooding, you know, like people don't get it, but he takes off the mask and it's like, oh shit, I can see myself. It's like Thanos, like when he really sits down at the end of Infinity War with like baby Gamora and she's like, was it worth it?
Oh, dude, that was
Like, you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like it's this, you're coming to terms with, oh shit, these characters are like me, where they're going through these fucking feelings, and it's like, was it really worth it?
It should also be noted that Killmonger is in the comics, he's more of his rival than he is a villain of the series. And I didn't like that for the movie they tried to make him out to be the villain of the entire movie because he had so many legitimate like gripes with what was going on and how they were secluding themselves. They were being like isolationists. Yeah. And then someone took that as an interpretation of like what like the United States was doing prior to joining the World War, where like they were being isolationists because no one was really bothering them. And then go ahead.
I'd like to make a point that comparing the real world to fantasy is dumb. It's just absolutely dumb. Like you can go, but it's not set up the same way. No. You know what I mean? And I don't think that, you know, Wakanda is not the US. It's not the US. No. It's not even the same type of idea.
Yeah.
Like it, you know what I mean? At all. Like it's just so far removed. So I mean, I've seen a lot of people do like, oh yeah, you know, like our current government thing is just like, you know, the Fellowship of the Ring fighting against Mordor, you know, like it's like shit like that. It's like no, it's not.
I think it really depends on like the media, because I would like argue that there is like a lot of shit that we actually could like. I don't like the Hunger Games, but I can understand why people fucking like put like parallels to it. And like in a lot of speculative fiction that we have, like a lot of basis comes from the real world.
Yeah, it's social commentary.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
like if you sit and read, like there's a book called Octavia's Brood, and it's fucking speculative fiction with a social justice twist. And if you read through a lot of it, like there's a book, there's a short in it called The Token Superhero, and it makes a lot of sense. Like, we didn't have a lot of black fucking superheroes when we looked at it. You know what I mean? Like we didn't have a lot of fucking black fucking Disney films. Like people were trying to tell us fucking The Lion King was our fucking film, and that's who it is. Fuck yeah! Oh my god, people are fucking weird. And then we got fucking, you know, Tiana and shit. And we finally got that, and then we had the shit with Wreck-It Ralph, where they all of a sudden lightened the fuck out of her, and people were losing their fuck. Like, you know, like there's a lot of shit that can be drawn into films. Like that was my whole fucking area of study, was like how nerd culture in a sense is like shifted so much over time that a lot of its basis comes from what happens today.
Yeah, I mean, I know that there's a lot of things that analyze stuff and try to create like metaphors for things that are going on, and I think that you'll see that in a lot of dystopian literature. Like Hunger Games is another good example. That's dystopian lit. Like, yeah, you can dislike it all you want, but I mean, people draw parallels because dystopias are based off of fear. A lot of the time, if you go back and you read ones from like, if you go back and you read The Iron Heel from 1909, that book is all about fear of oligarchy, and there's so much conversation between two characters, like business owners and the workers' parties, and like them discussing things and like who owns the machine, who's on top of the machine, who spins the wheels, and then it talks about how this oligarchy like wraps up the whole world under their iron heel and dominates all of them through the use of like business. And then it gets even like our fears of contamination, our fears of people being ignorant to things and just letting stuff, like if you watch if you read It Can't Happen Here, that's another really, really good book also, that's just about people like being enamored by a political speaker, and then just going along with everything and being okay with it. and just like, and they like walk out of his speeches like feeling really inspired, but they don't remember what he said. Sort of shit like that. And it's so like I can see parallels being drawn with stuff like that has like a sort of a place in the real world where it's like I'm trying to recreate a representation of our real world with cities and our buildings and our government system and everything. And I think you'll get a lot more interesting observations out of that, because a lot of these people wrote books, especially if you want like 1984. George Orwell, first of all, grew up during the time when there were gnarly totalitarian rulers. He also purposely lived among the poor and gave up everything he owned to live like a poor person so he could learn what it was like for those struggling classes and whatnot. He did. That's what all he wrote. No, he wrote like 3 biographies about it.
No, it's not that he did it. It's just that I'm like, why the fuck did you even bother to do that? But like, that's a whole different discussion.
Yeah, well, I mean, because he really wanted to learn what it was like, and he's like, is it really as bad as they say it is? Am I really like living a lie? What's real? So I'm gonna go find out, and wrote about it, and he discussed like how like the upper class is like crushing these people, and it's been a thing forever. But I mean, besides like trying to bring everything back from like
so the main reason I brought up the connection with Black Panther with the United States with things like that was because one of like as a part of Killmonger's like last moments on screen, he mentions slavery and like why he wanted to die a certain way, and like they even let him deliver like a really strong line at the end of the movie. For like that was strong even for like a Disney movie, for them to like allow something like that.
Killmonger was really interesting.
Right.
He was a good villain. I really liked Black Panther like as a movie.
And then for them to do that and then to mention that, because so to mention something as heavy as that and how connected it is to the history of the United States is why I ended up mentioning it as like a connection.
Understood that particular part.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
Well, that's specifically because they are doing a modern interpretation of like revisiting something that people have talked about numerous times, while also doing something a little bit more futuristic with what is the possibility of a country that's never been colonized. What is it going to look like? And what is the technology and everything going to look like if they had never experienced colonialism happening in their country, and then moving forward with that. And Black Panther was also made during the 70s, like when they knew that they needed some form of like black hero, and so they created Black Panther, which was like obviously a direct connection to the Black Panther Party. So it was like there was a lot of stuff going on during that time period. So it's almost wouldn't be fair to talk about it and then separate it from like real life events.
I think Black Panther did a really good job of potentially representing ideals of 2 opposing sides within the same faction. Like sort of like 2 different ideologies. You have a super militant, like I want to rule and take care of it and do everything my way, and then you have like sort of like you have like the chaotic good side, and then like the lawful good side. And, you've got Black Panther. I always fucking forget his actual name. Killmonger and Black Panther. You've got
T'Challa.
those 2 characters. Thank you, T'Challa. There you go. Thank you. So yeah, I always forget. But then you have like both of those sides. So you have like the more militant side, then you have the more like the chaotic good side, and then there's the lawful good side. One who's like, these are the ways we've always done things, and I'm going to maintain that because that's what I believe is safe for my people. And then one who's just like, fuck that. Like, we need to bring this and increase our people's like state in the world. Like, what are you doing? Like, maintaining this.
I want to see extra scenes and story about is it M'Baku? The
vegan. My baby, that's straight up baby.
He ends up being like one of the best, most noble characters in the film, and like he doesn't get nearly enough screen time for all the stuff he was doing.
The Gorilla Tribe?
Yeah.
Yes. I love him.
He's amazing.
The one where that's the guy who saved T'Challa when he fell off the thing,
exactly.
And then they were doing the
he
fucking thing, and he was like,
up.
"Oh, I'm vegan." Like the joke, I think that's where it comes out is that scene. Like,
where he mentions about his children
so attractive.
eating them.
Fuck, like.
Well, so that part was funny because he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna feed you to like my children," and he's like, "Just kidding, we're all vegan." Is what he says to that, and then but in that moment he decides to give up the Black Panther power, like that they were gonna give to him. He instead takes them over and is like, T'Challa is still alive, and like gives it to him instead. And that I think they handled the translation from comic book to film with him, because the original depiction of him was really racist.
Really?
Yeah. Well, because they were relating him directly to a gorilla and to being like, and so like when it first got released, he was very much that stereotypical character in the comics. And so they're trying to think of the best way that he could get translated into film, and they did it really well. It became more of just a symbol of the tribe and not a racist thing that they were going to bring into the film for what they were doing. So that was handled really well.
I mean, M'Baku was literally in a fucking like ape costume.
Right, his
ape
helmet.
man.
Oh yeah, so if you look up the
Like-
comic, he looks a certain way,
Holy shit,
and that's
yeah.
how. And he became like one of the other rivals to the Black Panther. In addition,
Yeah,
to
his
Killmonger.
fucking name is Manape.
Yeah, Manape is what they called him. They didn't even like name him until like really recently in some of the comics. So interesting how they ended up handling that. But he ended up being one of like my more favorite characters, even though you didn't get to see him that much in the movie.
I agree. Was also one of my favorites. I
Right.
liked all the scenes he's in. You're just like, I want to just give that guy a hug. Cool.
Super nice.
Mm-hmm.
Right. we just went in on Black Panther. We were like, you know what? We want.
I feel like this podcast has to have some sort of like, we have to explain where this is going.
What's gonna happen is I'm gonna name the title, and it's gonna be like sorta.
There you go.
'Cause
Perfect.
we're gonna go
we sort
into-
of talk about
right.
Cannibal Holocaust
And then go into way other. Well, because these are all these. I think this topic is what interests all of us the most, as
as
far
of
like,
right now.
right,
Yes.
what's going on with it. You know the original cut of Black Panther is supposed to be like 4 hours.
What?
Oh,
Yeah.
I would have lived.
That's
for
how much
4
content
hour,
they-
right.
That's
I
a
would have
lot.
100% sat and watched through that.
They filmed like 5 to 6 hours of content, like because they wanted so much for the story, and then they had to cut it down and everything like that. But the original cut, like the one they wanted to release, was 4 hours, and they're like, you can't do a 4-hour movie.
the fuck we have Lord of the Rings, fucking all
I
this
know.
bullshit. Like, are you
Right.
serious?
And so they were like, okay, we need to like save this and then possibly do like another movie. So they're gonna do another movie.
Are they doing Black Panther too?
Yeah. But
Oh, that's
and-
coming.
yeah,
oh,
that-
that's
do not
absolutely
freeze.
coming.
what was that?
I do not freeze. My fucking, those are some of like the best lines from that fucking film. Like,
That's great.
I love T'Challa and what Nakia is his girlfriend. I think I can't remember if I'm thinking of his sister.
Nakia?
Yeah, or if I'm thinking of it. Fuck, is that his sister's name or is that his
Pretty sure.
girlfriend's
I don't think
name?
Black Panther has a lover. In,
Yeah,
I
see,
don't-
what the
does
fuck?
he?
Whoa.
Does
Yeah, he
Did
does.
Am I
Hardcore.
fucking dumb?
Like-
Did I forget that
Oh
part
my
of
god,
the movie?
that's like fucking whole.
The-
Lupita Nyong'o's whole fucking character
Yeah.
was that was his ex girlfriend
Yeah.
that he was still in, and then they fucking got back together, or like some kind of weird shit. But you
It
know,
wasn't.
all right. Jesus,
Your voice is raised like 8 octaves.
So mad that I forgot a little tiny part of that movie.
because it's not a tiny part. She's like a main character. Like, oh my god.
I mean, it's not his sister who is way more important.
So we had
I was
fucking,
gonna
okay.
say
Oh, no, I'm fucking pissed. So okay, we had fucking 3 strong ass black women in this. You're trying to tell me that fucking the sister was more important? They were all equally as important because they all worked together. We had bald headed bitch. We had fucking. So I can't.
Oh,
think
I
of
liked
name.
her a lot. She was
So
awesome. She
fucking,
was super
like-
cool.
You're talking about
Fucking-
the main
guard.
general.
Yeah,
the
fucking
guard.
she.
She's
Oh
the-
my gosh,
she's the
she's
leader.
fucking.
Percy just did a little dance. That's,
Yeah,
that's
it's a
what
fucking.
happened.
I love that movie so much. She's from The Walking Dead. That's the fucking.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of her name from because I'm not really into The Walking Dead. Like,
Is it? Who is? It's not Michonne, is it?
Yeah.
it is
Oh,
Michonne.
it's
yeah,
Michonne without
yeah,
any
it's
hair.
Michonne.
Oh, okay, cool, awesome. All right, cool.
And then
I was
there's
like,
his
yeah, sure.
sister,
Like
fucking his sister, which the actress name is Leticia Wright, if I'm right.
Yeah.
And then there's fucking Lupita Nyong'o's character, which I'm pretty sure is Nakia, and fucking they were all
Well,
3 like as a
she-
thing, like that is a fucking like if I am ever in some fucking kind of thing and I had to call on 3 fictional superheroes, that is 100% who the fuck I want to protect me is bald headed bitch, fucking science bitch, and fucking girlfriend.
Science bit.
Like that's what I'm gonna.
There's some fist pumps coming from the crowd. This is great. In the comics, the little sister ends up working with the other little girl, the one who has the T-Rex as her friend.
Oh, the smartest girl in the Marvel
Yes,
universe.
Yes, they end up
Oh my
working
God.
together to create some really modern technology to
Doesn't-
protect Earth.
The sister also, in some point, become Black Panther.
Yes,
Yeah.
she takes up the mantle after T'Challa is not able
Woo.
to do it, and so they get. I don't know if it's the first female Black Panther, like officially in the comics or the storyline, but there's multiple people who take up that mantle, and then T'Challa is not like he's not like out of commission. He just can't do that job anymore. And then he goes and does alternative things in the Marvel universe. He's just not like representative so much of the country anymore. He's not like king, things like that. And usually it goes to like family members or you do what they did in the film. You challenge someone and you take whatever position of power which you want to do with that. But yeah, it was super cool to see this was around the same time that they had someone else take up the main person who was Iron Man. Like who started wearing the suits. It was the black woman you saw on the cover who was holding the Iron Man helmet.
Oh.
And so there was her, and then a female took over Thor's position. She was able to wield
Deadass
the
side
hammer.
comment, Justine, please do a cosplay of fucking Lady Iron Man because you would 100% like hair and everything.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
You are dead ass spot on. Like the perfect person for that cosplay.
That'd be fucking awesome. Oh yeah, there's so much cool shit. The storyline about how Thor's how he like becomes sort of unworthy to hold the hammer for a period of time, and then this girl takes up holding the hammer and like inherits all of the powers of Thor for however much time is really good. It's a really well like done comic, and I read it after reading the Civil War comics, and the Civil War comics made me cry. Like I haven't cried at something that I was reading in a long time.
My favorite comic, probably the one that got me into everything, is actually Watchmen.
That's a good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you like the movie?
I've never seen the movie. I've only read the comic. I've read the comic like multiple times.
The movie takes some bits from the comic, like frame to frame. Like it is like almost exactly like what you're seeing there, and it's really, really well played out. And I like the actors they chose for it, so it's worth it. You should watch the extended one. So the extended version has cut-ins of a secondary story about a pirate captain, and it like sort of extends out the movie. But the story that gets included is the story that the kid is reading at the newsstand. So you'll see like the connection there. It's pretty cool. So the comic that the kid is reading inside the movie is the storyline that gets played out through the movie. So it's worth the like 3 hours that the extended version is. Is it? I think it's like just under 3 hours. But I've seen that movie so many times now.
I fucking love Watchmen, so.
Yeah, I still need to buy the comic.
What was your first comic, John? Comic that got you that like was like.
The first comic that brought me into things was Spawn.
Oh, that's awesome!
Yeah,
Spawn's so cool.
I was gifted the first edition, not edition. The first what am I trying to say?
Like a compilation of issues or something along those lines.
The first issue. The first issue. The very first issue of Spawn that came out in the 90s.
Oh, very cool.
As a kid, I was gifted that by another family member who didn't know anything about it. They were like, "This looks cool." Gave it to me, and then I ended up reading it and just ended up reading all of the Spawn comics. So like the Spawn movie, even though it's a terrible fucking movie, I love it because it was like one of the first like things I had seen that was like an adaptation of.
I love that movie.
Right.
I don't even think it's that. I don't really think it's that bad. It's the new Spawn that's coming out pretty soon. I've heard about doesn't sound even close to as good.
Well, I mean, this movie had like John Leguizamo as the clown. And then, like, it was one of the first ones, I think, that included, God, I can't remember his name right now. But he's like, he's been in a few other movies. He's a really cool black character. And it also definitely kept alive the idea that Spawn is black and was, like, maintaining that storyline. And they didn't want to change it out. But, like, I still have the comics. They're, like, sitting on my bookshelf from where I can see here. Like, I have the first one there, the first issue. And now it's got to be, like, 25, 26 years old. And it's like one of the first ones I read. And then after that, I was reading all the Star Wars Dark Horse comics. So like when you got to see all of the alternative storylines that were happening, which apparently now Disney was like, none of this is canon, which is like kind of fucked up.
I think they've like kind of backed up on that, and they're
Right.
trying to say like certain things aren't canon, but it's Disney.
Right. I know.
It's
That's
just
some fucked
Disney.
up shit.
So on a side note on Disney, the Star Wars Galaxy's Edge is actually opening up earlier than I thought, and I think it's opening up in April or May.
Dude, if it opens up in May, I'm going for my birthday.
I'm pretty sure they like stated that it's opening up like real, like they were actually able to push it forward, and that it'll be opening up sooner. And I think it's going to be the only part in Disneyland you can drink in,
Oh my
because they'll
god.
actually have like an actual cantina.
Yeah, I was going to say
Yeah.
they're going to have a cantina is why they're totally going to do that. That's awesome. Holy shit.
If you haven't seen pictures of Galaxy, I went to Disneyland last year for my birthday, and we got to go see it. Galaxy's Edge is gonna be pretty fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Like, they have like a Millennium Falcon like hanging off the side of a building.
Well,
and
there's
shit.
a
Like,
Millennium Falcon ride.
yeah, like you get to drive. Like you get different.
You
I
go
think if
in,
that's the one
yep.
you get like the different roles and
Exactly.
shit. Fuck yeah.
You're going to go in with a crew, basically. So you get to choose the people you go in with, or you just get put in a random crew. And you'll take up the position of being either the pilot, like in control of the Millennium Falcon, one of the gunners, and one of the engineers.
Galaxy's Edge opens up in Disneyland on May 31st.
Fuck. we're gonna go.
And right now they're doing the SoCal 3 days for $150, $180, and I think it ends up until May. So you might
Right.
want to just get your tickets now for that.
If I don't get him there,
Yeah.
I'll get him with my dad on Camp Pendleton.
Yeah.
Super cheap. Yeah. I'm totally gonna do that. Hell yeah. Oh my god. Just set up a whole thing. I'm gonna I'm gonna plan that.
Yeah, I'm trying to like plan it out. Like if things go well with the guy that I'm talking to, I'm like, let's go make a Disney trip to go to Galaxy's
Right.
Edge.
Yo, it's gonna be so crowded those like first few months of
You
it
know
opening.
how fucking like those ticket prices are gonna soar because of Galaxy's Edge. Because you're just gonna have all your fucking fanboys, fucking. You know what I mean?
What was that?
It's Star Wars. Like you know what I mean? Like fucking. It's gonna be a nightmare. Like I'm ready for it.
What I'm not prepared for is all of the body stank that's going to be in that part of the park because all of these men don't know how to bathe themselves.
Well, if you want a even more exciting thing for all the Harry Potter fans, fucking Universal Studios Florida is opening up their Hagrid's Magical Journey ride. I think this year, which is they're getting the Dueling Dragons ride.
Oh, what?
We don't have it here because we don't have the space for it,
Right.
but they're getting it's being redone to a ride that has to do with Hagrid, and I love Hagrid so much.
Right.
That's my baby. I make like monthly pilgrimages to fucking Hogsmeade, so like pilgrimage. I
Oh
don't
my
know,
God.
Yeah, I have a Universal pass. So
I was going to say, is
go-
it because you have a pass?
yeah, I go like I'm going next weekend. Like, so like, I go and they have really good food. But yeah, that's another thing. I follow up on a lot of theme park things because I go to a lot of theme parks.
Right.
It's also Renaissance Fair season, just for everybody that's fucking excited. So there's just a lot of shit going on. Like,
I've never been to any sort of Renaissance fair.
can we have a fucking the Grindhouse host go to a Renaissance Fair?
That'd be cool. I'd be down for that.
That'd be such a fucking fun.
I think we'd have to dress up for sure. Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah,
Do you, no,
yeah.
I think.
What?
Yes. Like, yes, you're gonna have to dress up. That's the best part.
What?
Like,
See, now I don't know what I'd dress up as though.
I dress up every time I go as a fucking wench.
Just throw on a tunic and some
fucking
loose
that's what I
pants
do.
and walk around. You'll just be there.
Dude, it's
fun.
so fucking fun. It is so fun.
What do you do? Like, what's the?
The fuck do you mean? You throw axes, you get to watch jousting, you do your fucking medieval speak. Like, I drink meat. I start drinking meat at 11 in the fucking morning,
I think
dude.
the bigger ones do like medieval reenactments of battles too.
Okay.
Yeah,
where they
that's
like
like
charge
the-
each other
fuck
and stuff
yeah.
like that, and then like sometimes like I think I remember seeing it like the battle like the armies will clear, and then there'll be two people dueling each other while the rest of the soldiers are around them.
Yeah,
and
dude.
things
It's,
like that.
Escondido does
legit.
it.
Yeah.
All right.
there's a Renaissance fair that happens in
Yeah.
Escondido, and they fucking do a reenactment
I've
there
heard
too.
of that one too.
That one's
Yeah,
super
I keep
sick.
getting told about them, but I never.
Viking
never
Fair, Viking Fest is coming up super soon.
That comes in, and that's always in September, like around my birthday.
well,
It's
they
always
do
on
it
my birthday.
twice a year, I think now, because I've heard
Oh,
that
are they
there's
doing
one
it twice
coming
a
up.
year?
Like it's coming
Ooh.
up real soon. Yeah.
Yeah, it got popped. All the mead, it's all the meaderies are around, and so all that
Like,
goes out.
it's
and-
super fun. Like that is Renaissance fairs are where the fuck it's at, dude. Like that is some fun shit that you can just. They make season passes for fucking Renaissance fairs. Like it's fun.
I have a few things I have not had a chance. 'Cause y'all have been so excited about all the topics you guys are talking about that I have been wanting to say something, multiple things that I have consequently forgotten, or they have slipped my mind while waiting to speak.
All right, go for it.
So, first of all, I want to go back to our D&D discussion on Australian accents.
All right.
So, the only race in D&D that can have an Australian accent are the Drow because they come from a land down under.
Oh my God, you've been hanging on to that one.
The only reason it's an actual fucking Australian accent is because I can't do a real accent, so it just devolves into this shit.
I know. Secondly, I would like to talk about the comics that I've read because I love talking about the comics that I've read.
Hell yeah.
So the first one I ever read was an excerpt called "The Death of Gwen Stacy" for Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So that was the first arc of comics I ever read. Was when I was a little kid in my grandmother's house, and I was reading "The Death of Gwen Stacy," and that is gnarly. That was the first time I'd ever been like, oh yeah, someone just got their neck snapped. Oh, and the hero didn't save her, and I was like so stoked on it, but like upset. And then I would read like Watchmen and like V for Vendetta. I read both of those.
Yeah.
Also, both of those graphic
I
novels.
have that on my shelf right there.
Mm-hmm. And then the other one, my favorite comic series ever, is Transmetropolitan.
Yes.
My absolute
I knew you were
favorite.
going to mention it.
I will always mention
Yeah.
Transmetropolitan.
It's amazing.
It's such a good satirical comic, and listeners, go check it out, find it, read it somehow. It's Warren Ellis is an absolute just a treat to read, and Darren Robertson's great illustrator also. fantastic.
A picture of his glasses of the main character's
Spider
glasses,
Jerusalem?
Spider Jerusalem, was going around the internet recently, and like no connection to the comic, which is really weird.
Yeah, no, people like make replicas of those glasses like all the time.
Yeah, well, it was weird to see it, and I knew what it was, but then to see no other connections to it. Like, people just thought they were cool glasses. And I was like, what? This is from a specific comic. Like,
Yeah,
this
it's
is like a
this-
character's
like,
glasses.
the round one is a camera. He had cameras put in his glasses on purpose.
Right. It's crazy good. Have you read that,
What?
Percy? Transmetropolitan?
I have not.
It's like Hunter S. Thompson in the future in like a dystopian America
Yeah.
in like year 3000, and he's just like walking around as like humanity has just fallen to. It's like cyberpunk. It's all cyberpunk
I'll have to
stuff.
check it out. I'll
Yeah,
have to
it's
check it
super
out.
good. There's
fucking
a
awesome.
matter maker that makes its own drugs to get itself high.
Yep.
It's
great.
because it's depressed.
Yeah.
I'm
Fucking
into
awesome.
this.
I love
I'm
it.
into this.
That's cool. Hell yeah. Holy shit.
Yeah, so I just wanted to mention at least those two things. Oh, and also, I do not think that the criticism of Luke's portrayal in The Last Jedi are feasible or okay.
What do you mean?
A lot of people said that it was out of character for him to act the way that he did.
Oh.
But I'd like to counter that with saying that it was actually good writing on their part to give his character something to actually overcome.
Right.
Because not everyone who's old like that is going to continue to maintain a positive outlook on life and always be super hopeful. Like, no, people who are hopeful get crushed and get depressed and get sad and get like spiteful and angry about their past and about things that haven't worked out for them.
I'm 23 and I'm spiteful as shit.
Yeah,
already.
exactly. And so, yeah, exactly. But I mean, and even then though, but like it just goes to show people can fall that way. And I think that it was good that they portrayed him a way where he had to overcome his hopelessness over the whole situation. And then he comes back for his last deal, which is to help.
Well, personally, I think Yoda's inclusion in the story when he comes in sort of explains why he ends up doing what he does.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Yoda comes in and tells him that, like, you're too worried about these ancient texts. You're too worried about how, like, they might turn out, because he was obviously afraid to teach more students because of what had happened with Kylo Ren. And then it made sense that he essentially did what Yoda did. He became a part of the Force and like transcended in a certain way. So I agree. It did make sense.
Yeah. I think that I also really wanted to talk about that movie a little bit because there was a lot of people who just hated that movie. And I was just like, I had so much fun watching it. I enjoyed it. I thought that they really like gave the series a kick in the pants a little bit. Like visually, like action wise, like character wise, they gave like a lot of people some more interesting qualities about them that developed these older characters that we've all seen for 30, 40, how many years now? Like, you know, for all these years we've rewatched all those Star Wars movies that are made in the 70s. We still watch them.
Yeah.
I don't hate The Last Jedi for its content. I just don't like it. I just didn't think it was a good film. Like, just in general,
Like
how it was
collectively
made.
as a
yeah,
good
like
narrative.
I just thought it was shit. Like, I was like, oh, like the gambling planet is one of like my biggest gripes because I get it. It's supposed to, it puts in a political agenda in a film that already has a
right.
pretty, a political agenda to it. But it's like, I don't know if you've seen the last Jurassic Park, the one that just came out recently, Lost World.
Yeah.
There's a whole spiel at the end that Jeff Goldblum's character goes into, and the film is extremely political, and I get it. It just seems misplaced. Like it's like
For
sections of the
movies,
films
then?
where like it just shouldn't have been at.
Yeah.
So like I get that they're like, oh, like fucking your people are also paying for these same types of weapons. So like who's really the good guy? And it's like, okay, I get it, but like this is an overused trope. Like, I'm like it just didn't seem like it sat well where it was at. I was like, this is really weird. Why
I think there's something. It's also been a while since I have seen the movie. I didn't like seek it out for a rewatch to like critique it. I just remember walking out of the theater and being like, oh, that was enjoyable. I'm curious to see where the series goes from now, and I haven't I watched all the older Star Wars movies, I watched all the prequels and stuff, and I feel like the series needed a kick, it needed something to get it back to being like.
But also like these new films aren't meant for us old fans, so like they're meant for the generation now, because like this is going to be like when we're older. These are going to be the kids that grow up to become historians of that, and they're talking about, oh, when fucking episode 7 came out and I was like 6, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's meant for them. It's in the same sense that a lot of us grew up with like with original Star Wars, and we're like, oh shit, as a kid, like this was really cool. It's the same thing for them. It's giving them their chance to have something like that.
Also, anybody who picks up anything Star Wars is already dealing with such a massive universe that they're never going to please quite everyone who's going to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's already difficult to make a film within the universe. Yeah, but I agree with with Mitch, where it was an enjoyable film to watch, especially the first time through, because you're just excited to watch another Star Wars film.
Yeah.
And then as I went through it more, there were certain pieces I didn't like, including the gambling planet scene, because you could have cut out that entire scene and the movie would have still been fine. And you could have just said they went there and then like something happened.
Yeah.
What's the name of the pilot? She had really short hair. The one that Poe kept trying to defy. She ended up dying with the ship when she sent it into the other one, Captain Holo or something, something like
Captain,
that.
Or not Captain,
Or
General Holdo.
Yeah, like I really liked her character.
She was great.
Like I thought, I was like, oh shit, like she was ready to fucking die for this shit. Like that was kind of like, I get it, Poe is like this hot-headed fucking thing, but I was like, no, that bitch died for what was going on. Like, you know what I mean? I was like, she dead. Like,
Truly believed in the cause.
Yeah, like she straight up was she like hyper fucking sped or whatever the fuck it is, like that fucking the thing into the other one and just
oh my god. That was great. There's so many pieces to that. So like one, people thought that there's something wrong with the film because it went quiet during that like really aesthetically pleasing scene where like she basically does the ship into hyperdrive and then it goes straight through the other ship and it cuts to like this black and white sort of flash of the ship going through it, and then it was quiet for like a few seconds because like the ship is going into hyperspace, basically turns into a missile.
So there's a scene that I want to ask y'all about because I know a lot of people have a lot of mixed views on this.
Yeah,
but let's talk about Leia fucking force fucking pulling herself through space, because I know a lot of people have some real fucking mixed views on that scene, like fucking her being like, I'm gonna fucking do this, and now I've pulled myself through the fucking middle of space and I still make it through. Like I know, like I've heard, like I have my ex is like really into Star Wars and went on this like fucking like hour fucking thing like defending like this fucking part of the movie,
right?
And like had other people like critique him, like, oh, what the fuck, like. So I want to know, like, what did y'all think about that?
Are
like,
you saying people were upset that she did this?
There's people that are upset and people think that it's really cool. So like I want to know, like, what was y'all's view of that scene?
I think that it makes sense on a lore basis. Makes sense on a lore basis because of who Leia's related to and how she was born. And I feel like she was never. First of all, she's in a place of political power. Princess, now queen, I believe, later on. Or
she
queen.
never
I'm
gets.
so
she never gets translated to anything else.
But she's still like high.
She becomes general, yeah.
General. Okay, gosh.
General,
She's a higher up. So she's probably dealing with more than wanting to go do Jedi training and whatnot, like Luke does.
Yeah, she doesn't get the opportunity.
Their split makes it so that nobody pays attention to those powers, so she never gets to enact them. And it makes sense to me, just to me, that adrenaline kicking in like midichlorian stuff, and then her being able to access the Force that way in order to save something. I can't remember. Is she saving herself? She's saving herself.
Yeah,
yes, she saves herself.
Yeah,
she saves herself. Okay, gotcha. I know what I'm talking about. So yeah, she saves herself, and so it makes sense to me like that part. And I actually thought it was kind of cool that they did that for her character, even though it was going to also be like, I think it's the last movie she's going to be in too.
No, she's in the new one.
She's in the new one as well.
She's going to be
okay,
in the new
gotcha.
one, but like they're going to do CGI and then a mix of her actually being there.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Rest in peace.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm.
There's a few things. So first, I agree with Mitch. It makes sense because of her family relations and how powerful they all were in the Force. And it was a good, unique way to display her power without going over the top with it, and to like solidify that they're a very powerful family. And then like if people are really upset about her surviving like the vacuum of space, there's there's so many other things that were done with the Force besides that.
That's why I'm not upset about it, because like somebody tried to bring like, oh, like she shouldn't have been able to do that.
Like fucking Darth Plagueis changes bodies.
In
like
fucking the Force Awakens, fucking Kylo Ren gets like fucking hit with the fucking saber in like the chest, and he just starts beating himself like this.
No, he gets shot in the stomach.
Oh yeah, whatever the fuck it was, and he's like just doing this, and he's literally using the Force to hold himself fucking together. Like, so I was like, it makes sense.
He took like a straight blaster shot to his stomach, like where all of his guts would have spilled out, and
he's
he
like
was
holding
still going.
Together. Fuck yeah.
Yeah. So for people to be like, oh, you wouldn't survive the vacuum of space is not a real argument, I think, in that sense.
They also didn't overdo, like you said, they also didn't overdo Leia's power either.
Right.
They didn't have her like blow up a ship with her powers out of the blue or anything. It was just a very simple little thing.
Yeah.
It was like a trick that a Padawan would do. You know?
Well, I don't know about a Padawan.
I don't know,
maybe
whatever. You know, like a lower, like somebody who's just learning, you know, would do something like that as like a reactive instinct.
Funny. I have a side note to talk about Padawans and apprentices in a second, but for her, I was really upset because I thought she was actually dead. and she's one of those characters I don't want anything bad to happen to in the whole series, because I'm just like, no, she's exactly who she needs to be in the series, and like it sucks that she didn't get explored more as like a warrior in her younger days, because in the comics she's a really, really cool like action hero. You get to like, if you go and read the Leia comics, she does so much like random adventures with Han Solo and a few other people, like on the ground fighting with a blaster most of the time. And then she learned how to use a few weapons. So there's not enough storyline played out in like the official films. So to include something like that was really cool to see her kind of evolve that way. And then to see that she's highly capable of all these things, in addition to being a really good diplomat. She's the general for a reason, like you had mentioned earlier, where she's in a good political position of power, and she becomes the general. And she does that with Han, and even though they like kind of separate for a bit, it's not really like a big deal. But let's talk about how Jedi Padawans cannot stand up to any Sith apprentice. They're almost always going to lose to the apprentices because of the way that the Sith take power. Like every instance you've ever seen, these fucking Padawans get mowed down over and over again. And it's like, I don't want to like bag on like, oh, the Jedi aren't doing things the proper way, but like because of their like inclusive way that they're bringing everyone in, they're not all trained on the same level, and then only like the special ones kind of get brought up into like being a general and things like that.
The Jedi withhold power from people. They say, you're not ready to experience that. You're not ready to be in this position. You're not ready to do this. They close everything else. Where the Sith, they're like, take it. Just go as far as you can go and take it.
I immediately thought of I think it's the third movie, where what is it? They grant him. He's like on the council, but I don't think he's like a master, or one of those two. Like they don't. Basically what you said, they withhold some power from him, and then he's like, "What the fuck? What do you mean I'm not? Like this is ridiculous. How could like I be on the council but not a master?" And then he gets upset about all of that. But I think I prefer the story arcs that come out of the Sith, because you have to assume then that the current Sith in the universe is the most powerful because of the way that their ascension line has kind of gone. And there's only two of them at any point, which also makes me think about since Kylo Ren is the only one left at that point, what's going to happen with that sort of like storyline where they kept playing that out, because I don't think he took any sort of apprentice because he still was one himself.
He wants Rey.
Well, did he want Rey in that way, like to be apprentice, or did he want to? Because
I can teach you.
Well,
that's like a whole thing.
But
like,
he says
I could be your teacher. Like, you know.
But he says we can rule the galaxy together.
Yeah, but he has to teach her first. Like that's the thing. Like he wants her to come underneath.
But I don't think he wants her to kill him.
I mean, that's why they're gonna rule the galaxy together. I also don't like the relationship
forced love story.
I'm hoping it doesn't become that, because that's going to be some like shitty ass writing. Like that is some poor ass writing if they decide to make fucking Kylo Ren and Rey lovers, because my fucking goal is that fucking Poe, fucking Finn and Rey become just a polytriad.
They're all dating.
Or that fucking Poe and Finn just become a fucking thing because bruh, like that is.
There's so many scenes where they're like hugging each other and it's just like, yeah, this will work out.
Like I'm like, just let us have that. Like I 100%, that's my goal, is Puffin.
Also, shout out to Andy Serkis for always giving such a good performance anytime they do motion capture with his face, like fucking playing Gollum and then doing like all of the other types of characters. Have you seen his performance as Snoke without like all the CGI on him? They had to change the shape of Snoke's face because of how deep his voice was. So they changed the way like his neck and his jawline look to match the deepness of his voice.
Wow.
And then they had to like change certain features on his face, because when they animated the CGI on top of his face, they're like, that's not menacing enough for the voice that he's giving. And so they had to redo it and make him look even more terrifying, because he had given such a good performance for that like they're like, we could just put him in like a regular ass costume and he'd be good like that. But they put the CGI over his face. Damn. It's so cool to watch. I put a video of it up like not too long ago. Worth to watch, because he's like sort of been the pioneer for that motion capture, especially for all of like the facial features. So he's really good at face acting, where he gets to bring out all of the emotions through his face. So worth going to watch it. But I'm also disappointed that he got cut in half, which is really weird. Like, how did he get killed so easily? Like that was one of the only times that I was legitimately surprised. I was like, what? That's it? Like, did he transfer? Did he like, was it a joke? Was it like a ploy?
Yeah, it was kind of I guess you could say at the end of it was sort of an anticlimactic death for such a really talked about individual and really like high up individual.
Well, I thought he was going to kill Kylo Ren. Like, I really thought, well, so like that, well, because he had the final test for him, right? You're like scoffing at me.
Like, you really think they're gonna kill off one of their fucking breadwinners of the series? No. Like,
well, according to you,
like fucking. Did you know how like fucking just merchandise wise?
Yeah,
like,
I get
no,
you.
like they were not gonna. Of like the fucking only person that I like of the main people that I would think that they would kill off is fucking Finn, which would suck. But like, I feel like that's like
he
one of the
almost
only
did,
people.
and then Rose fucked it up.
That's like.
No,
terrible.
no.
I
you
know.
remember that, right?
No, I know. That's why I was like, that's why
that was such a glorious setup for such a good martyr scene.
And like she just like pow.
Yeah, he's ready. He's ready to like die by going into the middle of this gun that's about to blast down the door for like the last remaining members of the rebellion, and is like about to destroy it. And then here comes fucking Rose out of nowhere, runs straight into his ship, and he's like, "Why did you do that?" And she's like, "Cause I love you." And I was like, "What the fuck, dude?"
The fucking that stupid ass like love quote thing that I was like, this is not the place for it. Like
it was almost as upsetting to me as the intro where they like have gravity all of a sudden and have to be above the ship to drop whatever bombs they have from those weird bombers. I was like, what? Do we have a fucking like atmosphere above the fucking ship that they have there? They have to be right above it to drop it. They can't send out missiles. It was the dumbest intro I think I'd seen in a while. So I was like, this is dumb. And then her sister dies unnecessarily. But like that was another thing too. I was like, you could have just let Finn die and people would have been cool with it. Like,
I love him.
Even though he's a great character, like on his own.
John Boyega does really good as Finn. Like he's also just a really good actor.
Yeah, holy shit.
So.
I'm really upset that his acting in the second Pacific Rim movie was not worth it.
Was it not?
Well, he was good. He was really good, but the rest of the people in that film
I heard
sucked.
that movie was bad. So
it was so terrible. I'll tell you, the dude, the guy from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Charlie Day?
Yeah, Charlie Day becomes the bad guy in that film for no reason, for no fucking reason. He like gets brainwashed by one of the brains that he's still like trying to connect with, and then like that's what happens. He like takes over like the robot building program and then tries to fight them.
I love Charlie Day.
It's the dumbest. I didn't like it at all. It was such a terrible movie.
Damn.
But yeah, so that's what I was thinking of when I thought about Snoke, because actually I really liked the lines slightly before that. So when he's telling him that he told them like, I'm the one who bridged your minds. So like, first of all, you guys aren't that powerful, so relax. And he's like, I'm the one who did that. And then he goes into this whole bit about where he's like, where I saw like weakness in you, now I see like resolve. And he's like, you're the heir apparent to like Darth Vader. He like hypes him up basically, and then just gets cut in half after that. And I was like, what the hell?
Have you seen the new Fantastic Beasts?
Yeah.
So that whole like you're the heir to this, that kind of relates to the fucking the ending scene, spoilers of Fantastic Beasts, where they tell Credence that he's a Dumbledore.
Yes. Yeah, that's completely new too.
Like I was just like, the fuck are they doing with this? Like, you know what I mean? Like, also like McGonagall was in that film, even though she would have been like 3 during that time.
Well,
she would have been super young.
I think what they're assuming is that she is very, very old.
Yeah, but no, like canon time wise, like when Minerva McGonagall was born, she would have been like 3 to 8 years old. Like this is something like,
oh, I see. So the timeline got a little fucked.
Yeah, they put a character in there that should not have been that old. She shouldn't have been a teacher at that time. She wouldn't have been the same age.
Oh, yeah. She does show up.
Yeah, she fucking in the scene where she's like leading
Dumbledore.
Lolita. No, with Lita, and fucking when Lita fucking does the magic to that girl's mouth.
Yes.
And then like Lita like starts running off and everything. That's McGonagall. That professor, the teacher.
I thought you were talking about when they go to visit Dumbledore for the first time and he's in like his little office. She's the one who walks them in.
Is it?
Yeah,
Is that fucking McGonagall too?
Yeah, she's also in that scene as well.
Like,
yeah, she's very young in that, but like I get what you mean, where she probably would have been too young to be a teacher.
But yeah, but like this, it's just the same thing. Like these weird, like Credence is a fucking Dumbledore, and I made you this.
Well, they like making the roundabout connections to main characters in movies, or in storylines, really, like in narratives. They're like doing that. I mean, like Lord of the Rings does it too, with like, you know.
Percy, you gotta watch Lord of the Rings. I know you gotta watch it. It's so good. Like, it's such a good series of movies.
Yeah,
they're so good. Like, they are actually good fantasy movies that were during a time when there was no good fantasy movies.
Oh, that's true, huh?
We got Dungeons and Dragons. That was fucking terrible.
Oh yeah,
absolutely awful. Just no.
I repressed that.
The film?
Yeah.
You didn't like the film?
I did not like Dungeons and Dragons at all.
Oh, sorry. I'm thinking of the Warcraft film. Never mind. Sorry.
I loved Warcraft. Warcraft film was dope as fuck. I loved Warcraft. Warcraft was so good.
Sorry,
I love the unanimous excitement for Warcraft that all of us just experienced.
That was a really fucking good movie. Like, so that's what I thought you were talking about first. And I was like, how did you not like that film? I was like, that was a good ass film.
The critics ripped apart Warcraft. They hated that film.
I don't.
Well, it's because they wanted things spoon fed to them. Whereas Warcraft was like, no, you're a fan, you know what we're talking about, and then just went straight into it.
Yeah, you didn't even. The thing is, though, you don't.
It's not that much.
Everything is explained.
There is a good amount.
It's explained enough where if you just didn't pay attention,
right?
You know what I mean? Did you not notice the big gnarly sorcerer ripping souls out of people to power a portal? Does that not? They did it right in front of you. I don't understand how you don't figure that out. Like, are you just these people just don't know what fantasy is? I don't know. They just don't know what it is.
I think that's a fair assessment. People don't exactly understand some certain.
Yeah, they don't try to. They don't try to suspend their disbelief.
No, not at all.
And that's like one of the issues. Oh my gosh, if we want to talk about men being like emotional in movies and like showing genuine emotion for people, Lord of the Rings.
Yep,
that's what I've heard.
The hobbits, like Sam and Frodo. Super. I mean, as much as it got made fun of, dude, it's such a touching like connection. I don't care. It's a touching ass connection between.
No. I'm not rolling my eyes about what you're saying.
Oh, you're talking about the people complaining about it. Yeah, exactly. No.
Well, people complained that it was they were getting too emotional with each other, but it's such a good like
what else are they gonna do?
It's like a good masculine representation of like them caring for each other legitimately as friends and how much like they go through together. And then for Sam to be like his best friend, to like literally be like one of the most important people in the films because he's the only one who can help him bear like the weight of the ring without wanting to take it himself.
Yep.
Which is like makes him like the purest person, at least like for their like storyline.
Yeah,
so it makes sense.
It's so like Sam's entire ordeal. He becomes like one of the most important characters in the whole thing. And I love how he starts off as a gardener.
Right.
I love there's so many good scenes, like going through the mines of Moria and all the good writing they did for all of that. And like I even like that they didn't do it a lot of movies these days, which would be like, I want to skip the boring part.
Right.
Like they would have like, I think that if Lord of the Rings were made now by a different director, he would have skipped the meeting at Rivendell and stuff like that.
Yes.
Or like wouldn't even have done that council or would have butchered it.
They would have skipped like the whole first movie.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Or they wouldn't have done. I mean, I've only ever since the theatrical ones, I've only ever watched the extended editions of those movies.
Same.
Because they're the best ones.
Yeah, they include a lot of extras.
There's so much good stuff, and explains because like the theatrical releases take a lot of stuff out of it too. Like there's a lot of things like. Man, I don't want to spoil everything. There's so much good stuff in those movies. I rewatched The Fellowship of the Ring and The Two Towers recently with people who have not seen the movies. A lot of people like Two Towers a lot better than the first one.
Yeah.
Fucking Two Towers.
Well, it's only because the first one was like prep. It was like preparing you for what the next two movies are going to be about, for like the epic battle and how they bring everything together. The third movie still maintains for me one of those scenes that I will cry every single time I go and watch it. And it's because of the death of one of the characters. So it's just like, it'll happen. I won't explain it to you, but it's like, it's still one of those scenes where I'll watch it and I'm like, this is like easily one of the saddest things I'll see, but also really inspiring at the end of it when like everyone kind of rallies together. You know how they always do in fantasy films, they gather up an army and then everyone comes together. So it's like, they definitely played it out like how it was supposed to. And then you get all inspired watching it. Yeah. But dang it, Percy, watch the damn movies.
Yeah. If not for anything, it's got to be Gimli and Legolas's banter in between in like big battles.
I've always really wanted to watch it. I've just never had the chance to sit and watch it.
It's like the only movie I like Orlando Bloom in.
I'm gonna have to. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take all the files I have of these. I'm gonna compress them into little zip folders, and I'll send them to you.
Thank you.
I'll do that for the guinea pig movies also.
For the guinea pig.
The guinea pig movies.
Those are the Japanese horror films that we talking about?
Yes.
What are yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was like, oh my god.
Because I think next week if I'm picking movies next week,
Is that like the mermaid in the
Manhole and Flowers of Flesh and Blood.
Oh Jesus.
Mermaid in the Manhole is great. Better than the other one, but I want to see like Flowers and Flesh and Blood is like. It was another one of those movies where the guy was called into court because he's like, did you actually kill a woman on like in?
I'm fucking ready.
It's about this guy that like captures girls and turns them into bouquets of flesh. It's like it's fucking
Mermaid in the Manhole is
nar.
pretty good. So.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
So I think we're gonna have to rename this episode to just straight like criticism of whatever movies we wanted to talk about at the time.
I honestly think that we should end with saying that we were not as excited about these cannibal movies as we thought we were going to be.
As we thought.
I mean, I do want to say that Cannibal Holocaust is a great shock horror movie, but Green Inferno is kind of eh. It's got like the satire bit to it, but it's just kind of an homage of it, and it just kind of does sort of the same thing, and it's not as interesting as I would have liked it to be.
Speaking of trilogies, we should talk about the one trilogy we were talking about.
Holy Apocalypse Now. Ooh,
Yeah,
my
the-
life.
Wait, Apocalypse Now has a whole trilogy?
No.
So the
Wait,
In the Mouth
yeah,
or
go
the
ahead and explain
Thing,
it.
In the Mouth of Madness, and Prince of Darkness, if I'm right, is called the Apocalypse Now trilogy, and they're spiritual successors. They're all in the same universe. If I'm right, it's not like they're not actually related, but John Carpenter did all of them, and it's a whole.
Well, he explained it himself.
Yeah, In the Mouth of Madness is like one of my top 5 favorite horror films. Like it's like never really
Right.
talked about, but it's so good. Like
Yeah.
I enjoy that film. That is a damn good movie. And the guy from fucking Jurassic Park is in it.
Which dude?
From the first one. The main dude from the fucking first Jurassic Park film.
The white
That-
dude?
Yeah, that scares the dude with the raptor claw and the kid in the beginning.
That's such a good scene.
Yeah.
But okay. Fuck, what is his name?
I can't
So
think of it.
so this is
Sam
this is the,
something.
so wait this is called the Apocalypse Now trilogy.
No.
It's like Apocalypse something. Give me a
I
second.
think it's
can't
just the
remember.
Apocalypse trilogy.
It might be.
Apocalypse trilogy theme series is The Thing, Prince of Darkness, and In the Mouth of Madness. Is it called the Apocalypse trilogy?
Yeah. It's,
I
it's
think,
It's what
Yeah.
it's. Yeah, I just looked it up. It's what that's what I got anyway. But
he didn't introduce the idea until after he had completed all the films. There's like a convention that you can go and watch where he introduces the idea, and it's because he had so many stories that he wanted to kind of put together in like the same universe, and so he explains the whole thing. It's worth to watch the video instead of just having one of us explain it, because it's so he made it really detailed. But it is a trilogy in some sense or another, so interesting to talk about. We may consider talking about it in the future.
I've never seen In the Mouth of Madness or what's the other
Prince of Darkness.
I've never seen Prince of Darkness either.
You gotta watch
I
both. of them.
love
Oh
The
my
Thing though.
God.
The Thing is so awesome.
So, In the Mouth of Madness is a film about a writer who everything that he writes comes to life.
Oh,
And then
that's so cool.
it's an insurance dude, if I'm right, that's looking into everything. It's
Yeah.
so good. And Prince of Darkness is about a group of filmmakers, if I'm right, that go to a church in LA, and all the homeless people around them end up being all weird and stuff, and they found out that something is being resurrected in this church.
Yep.
They're such good. Like I think they're like much
Like it's
lesser.
literally
kno-
the Prince of Darkness.
yeah,
is
like
who's getting
they're
resurrected.
like such like lesser known like John Carpenter films, but they're so good. Like oh my, In the Mouth of Madness is amazing.
They're
Like,
really good because of how good John Carpenter was during that time period as far as like screenwriting and bringing together these like kind of obscure narratives that most people weren't really paying attention to, which is why he brought attention to it afterwards and was like, you should go check out my movies because these are really important to me. And then he started making other films and then got associated with Halloween and things like that,
The only other movie of his I saw was They Live.
which is also a good one.
Yeah, also super
That's
fun.
a wacky movie.
That's so much fun. I love that
Yeah.
movie.
Whoa. I
I
haven't
love
seen
I
that
love all the
forever.
allusions to LSD being like the way that you open because man, these glasses get you high. And it's
Right.
like, and so he's getting all high and seeing the truth. And
So
it's,
this is the one where he wears the glasses and he can see people.
sees the truth.
Yeah, he sees like the truth around him.
Yeah.
Essentially, that's such a cool concept.
Yeah, being able to like, I love a lot of the things they did with it, where they changed like all of the images on magazines to like breed and make money.
Right.
And like when he hands him money and he looks at through the glasses, it says, "This is your god now."
This is your god. That's such a good one. Yeah. Damn. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another good movie. Shit. All right. Well.
So this is the recommendations for comics, anime, movies.
Trilogies.
Yeah.
And a lot of analysis of Black Panther and Star Wars.
Yeah, believe it or not, yeah, it looks like we kind of like left the horror.
It's
today.
all right.
Oh well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I figured at one point we're gonna have to do an episode that is everything besides horror, and it's gonna be similar to this, where it's like, oh yeah, I want to talk about this movie.
You know, there are honestly a lot of movies that are not horror that I'd love to talk about and analyze. So maybe under Grindhouse we'll have like non-horror movies, and we'll just have good movies we think are awesome and want to watch them. I watched a really silly one not too long ago.
What?
Fucking with a friend of mine who I'd never seen it before. It was Love Potion number 9.
That sounds really familiar.
It was actually, I found it really funny. It was really silly. It's like this lady. It's like the Rick and Morty did a spoof on it with the where he mixes the potions that makes everyone attracted to Morty.
Yeah.
But they go to like this I can't remember. It's this guy that wants this girl to fall in love with him, and he takes the wrong one, and it makes everyone around him attracted to him, and they all just start running. And then but they play with it really well in the movie though, in a really silly way. But it's also kind of like I feel it was kind of like a romantic comedy sort of thing. But it wasn't too bad. It wasn't too sappy. Was why I kind of liked it.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Cool.
Yay!
Well,
That was a really long podcast, but I think we did some really good talking points in this one.
thank you guys for coming and talking about all of the random stuff that we decided on this time, which I appreciate because we were able to get. I think we started off a bit slow, and then we got really into it when we got into the analysis of other things that we were wanting to talk about. So thanks for coming to talk more about films and things like that. I always appreciate it, and I hope everyone has a good night.
Good night.